However that product comes, whether it's a house or whether it's a course or whether it's tax or whether it's an NFT, I don't give a crap what it is. I just enjoy the product creation and the outcome. That's like what makes me happy.
But it's being a leader. It's about the build. It's about community, camaraderie, like having the team.
Exactly.
Just building.
You got to be investing in yourself with your education, with your health, with your family. You yourself are the best investment you can make. Because if all this isn't right, you're not gonna have success out there and you're not gonna be able to impact other people. So invest in yourself first and foremost. But beyond that, once you start thinking about monetary investments, you've got to create long-term wealth by investing in other things.
When I was a kid, I thought I wanted to be a millionaire, assuming that a millionaire was living at this whatever you want level. I didn't realize you need to be more than a millionaire, but I just figured $1 million, you could have anything you wanted. Well, nowadays that's not true.
No.
I know a lot of people that their net worth is $1 million, dude, and they're not that freaking set up and styling.
No.
They're on their way, but $1 million's not much anymore.
One of my most popular videos was about how I'm making $300,000 a month on 11 streams of income. And I might do a follow-up video to that because it actually has gone up since then. But would you believe that it was just 5 years ago, back in 2016, that I broke 6 figures in 1 year for the first time ever? And that was a huge accomplishment at the time because a few years earlier, I was only making $1,200 a month as a minor league baseball player. So I figured it'd be a good time to make a video giving you my top 3 steps that allowed me to go from making $1,200 a month to where I'm at today. I'm also gonna reveal at the end of this video where I think my income is gonna be at the end of 2021, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But in order to hit my income goal for this year, I'm gonna need to up my subscriber count significantly. So I'm gonna bribe you. If you subscribe right now and you leave a comment on this video, I'm gonna be giving away $1,000 to somebody. 2 days from now, I'm gonna pick somebody from the comments and announce it on my Instagram on stories. So make sure you subscribe and comment so you can win $1,000. All right, so let's jump into the video. As I said before, I was making $1,200 a month as a minor league baseball player. And that was only 6 months out of the year when I was actually playing. I was technically unemployed the other 6 months out of the year, but they didn't even let you claim unemployment during that time. They said that you are an employee even though you're not making money. And it's crazy because people make more on unemployment than I was making as a minor league baseball player. So for anyone watching this video who's on unemployment or wants to complain about how much they're making, I really don't want to hear about it. I'll tell you, not making a lot of money and working a ton of hours forced me to become who I am today. I had to learn hard work, I had to learn how to grind, I had to learn how to live on nothing, and developing all those traits in my early 20s when I didn't have money have allowed me to be much more disciplined now in my early 30s with money. And that leads me to step 1, which is the biggest lesson I learned during that time. In order for me to survive, I had to get a side hustle. Back then when I was playing, I started off becoming a realtor. I tried to sell some houses and make commissions. It was totally a side hustle for me that I ended up failing at. That then led me to becoming a substitute teacher, which I was making $100 a day at, and it was okay, but I absolutely hated that too. But those failed side hustles ended up leading me to a side hustle that I actually had a lot of success in, and that was couch flipping. And I'm sure a ton of you guys have seen my couch flipping video. If you haven't already, definitely go check it out. But that was the first time in my entire life that I had started to make some good money. It started out as a business where I was making $1,000 a month, then $2,000, then $4,000, eventually making $8,000 a month net profit on average. So it's pretty good when you can turn your side hustle into a full-time income. So that's the first step that I think everyone needs to do. Obviously, your current situation doesn't work, you're not making the money you wanna make, and you're probably not gonna increase your pay in your current situation. So you need to look for a side hustle. And back when I was doing couch flipping in 2014, 2015, there wasn't nearly as many opportunities as there are today. If you just do a quick search on YouTube right now, you can find a ton of different side hustles that you can get involved with. In fact, I actually did my top 5 side hustles in a YouTube video, which I will link to down below. So from there, once you have a successful side hustle, you're gonna start making more money than you've ever made before. And it's gonna be really tempting to spend that money and live a better life, but you can't do that. You've gotta get out of the phase of living paycheck to paycheck, and you've gotta start saving some money. For me, when I started making better money as a couch flipper, I didn't all of a sudden just start going on crazy vacations or buying these crazy cars. My lifestyle stayed the exact same. People would have had no idea whether I was still just playing baseball, not making any money, or whether I was flipping couches making good money. It looked the same on the outside. So while most people in my situation would have increased their lifestyle significantly, I didn't. I actually decided to save and stay frugal. So before I go into step 2, if you're like me and you want to save money and build your wealth, make sure you hit the like button. If you're not like me and you want to spend all the money that you get and stay broke, then don't hit the like button and don't watch step 2. So once you find your side hustle, you start making some money, you need to progress to the next step, which is step 2, to find a high-paying career. Finding a high-paying career might sound difficult, but it's really not. In fact, your side hustle that you're doing could end up becoming that high-paying career. For me, this was house flipping. I didn't know at the time that it was gonna be something that defined me, that I'd be talking about on YouTube, and that people would be paying me to learn how to do. It was just a side hustle. But it ended up becoming my high-paying career. And by the way, if you wanna learn how I've done it, whether you're just starting out with it as a side hustle like I did, all the way to scaling it and making millions, you can go to futureflipper.com. We've got a bunch of different coaching programs, courses, and a whole bunch of free resources that can help you out. But house flipping may not be the high-paying career for you. It may be something totally different. My point is, it's most likely not gonna end up being your job. The reality is, most jobs will not end up paying you millions of dollars. The only way to increase your income really quick is either by being an entrepreneur or being high up with another entrepreneur who's gonna bring you along with them. And so for me, when I look at all the people in my companies that are directly below me, a lot of my COOs, they have the ability to make a lot of money because they've joined on with me. Unfortunately for most people, they're not gonna be in that type of position. And if you're watching this video and you're not happy where your income's at your current job, my guess is it's not gonna all of a sudden magically increase and double or triple to this level where you're making a lot of money. So odds are you're probably gonna have to find a new career if you wanna be ultra wealthy. And to me, I always recommend real estate because it is a career I believe anybody can do and become a millionaire at. There are just so many different avenues, whether it be house flipping or wholesaling or rental properties, that allow you to become wealthy much quicker than anything else in the world. And it may take you some time to go from step 1 to step 2, and that's all right. I mean, just doing step 1 is really good. You're making more money than you're spending, you're saving, you're doing well. A lot of people would be really happy with that. But in order to get to the next level and make the crazy money, you've got to figure out what your high-paying career is gonna be. Now here's the deal. If you're fortunate enough to find a high-paying career, that's really good. You're gonna make a lot of active income, but that still by itself will not make you wealthy ultra quick. You also need step 3. You've gotta start investing. Now, house flipping for me is not investing. That's my high-paying career. It's not something that pays me long-term, it's just quick money right now. When I talk about investing, I'm talking about multiple things. Number 1, investing in yourself. I've talked about that many different times, but you've gotta be investing in yourself with your education, with your health, with your family. You yourself are the best investment you can make. Because if all this isn't right, you're not gonna have success out there and you're not gonna be able to impact other people. So invest in yourself first and foremost. But beyond that, once you start thinking about monetary investments, you've got to create long-term wealth by investing in other things. So for me, that would be all the rental properties that I've accumulated to this point. I do believe that rental properties are the best investment you can make in the long term. Not only do they give you cash flow, but you get all the appreciation, you get all these tax benefits. It's really good. All these properties I've bought in just the last couple of years have increased my net worth by the millions because I got good deals on them, but also because the market has gone crazy. So investing in rental properties will definitely take you to the next level. Another investment I've been making is crypto. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, which you definitely need to, especially if you want to win that $1,000, because that's where I'm announcing it. But on my stories, I talk about all the crypto that I'm buying, especially when the market dips. Now, it's a more risky investment than other ones, but it also has a much higher reward if things go right. So with any type of investment, you got to look at risk versus reward. To me, the real estate is the very safe one. It also has very high rewards. Crypto is a lot more risky, but the rewards can be insane. But the last type of investment that I make, which is actually far better than both of those, is in my businesses. I've invested so much money to build out all of the businesses that I have today. If you watch the video where I talk about my 11 streams of income, most of them are based from my businesses. And it's not like you can just start businesses with no money and they don't have all of these operating costs or expenses. No, I have to make the investment and trust that the business is gonna give me a return. And I can tell you those businesses create more active income for me than anything else, but they're also creating more long-term value than anything else. If you wanted to buy any of my businesses today, you'd have to pay me a lot of money because I know what they make right now and I understand what their potential is. And those are pretty much the three main things that I invest in. If you're wondering why I didn't mention stocks or mutual funds or any of that stuff, it's because I just don't think I'm gonna get that great of a return compared to these other three. And let that be a lesson to you once you reach the investing stage. You do not need to master everything. Figure out what investments work for you with your skill set and what you like to invest in. So those are the 3 steps for what it takes to go from $1,200 a month to over $300,000 a month. Now, I told you at the beginning of this video that I'd be sharing with you what my goal is by the end of 2021 to make per month. Now, in order for me to reach this goal, I'm gonna need you to hit that subscribe button because that is the only way my businesses are gonna get enough traffic to be able to produce this type of money. And also, I'm gonna be giving one of you $1,000 anyway, so why not? So my big goal for this year between all of my companies and all the different things I'm doing is to get to $1 million a month. Now look, if you would have told me this a year ago, I would have said I was crazy because there's no way I could have foreseen myself even having a plan or something that's possible to be able to do that. But with all the companies I have at this point and all the things we are doing right now, the projections say that it is completely possible. All right, so your goal is to spend $250K and you've already spent half of that. You know, we're not even halfway through the year.
I'm about 120 in.
Yeah,
120.
So, I mean, I think I spent a lot of money on myself to develop, but it's not at that level yet. So, like, what am I missing out on? What are you spending it on?
I'll tell you the way this all started. You know, in 2017, man, like my business partner and I, we did in 2 years what probably takes somebody 10 years to do. That people don't understand that, right? Like we did. I mean, you know, how many people do you know in the real estate space that we're already, you know, and no comparison, not competing with anybody, but how many people have you met that have been doing this business for 10, 15, 20 years, right? And they don't have the level of success that we have. They don't have the team that we have. They don't have the infrastructure that we have. They don't spend the money that we do. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because Sal and I put everything on the line. When we say like, when I say we went all in, we were like, we're willing to die for this. Like that's what it was. And he's an Iraqi immigrant that was persecuted, shot at, you know, for being a Catholic in Iraq. So he already had that adversity and trauma coming in. Then you got this Mexican kid that all he knew was like pain, suffering, abandonment, trauma. Then you put these two guys together. I mean, it's like, it's, you know, I mean, it's like, what do you call it? Like putting fuel into a fire, right?
Right.
You put these two guys together and then they complement each other so well, right? One of them's an integrator. He's a software guy. Then you got this guy who's a bulldozer. He's a visionary. He leads from the front. You put these guys together and we start creating some magic. For 2 years, we neglected our children, our wives, our family. I mean, if it wasn't about growing our businesses, we didn't want nothing to do with it. Nothing. We neglected our health. So in 2017, I remember vividly, Labor Day weekend of 2017, I got my first anxiety attack. I didn't even know what anxiety was. Think about it, right? Think about a kid who grows up in all this poverty and suffering. And I'm just used to this at this point. Like, this is my second nature. Like, you know, to be anxious, to be in survival, to, you know, to see how we're gonna live today. Like, we, you know, not guarantee the next meal, not guarantee the next day. I was okay with that already. But once we got some success in 2017, it really starts to come back full force. Like now you're not in survival mode. Now you have a little bit of time to relax a little bit and idle hands. And then you start thinking about all that junk and baggage starts coming up. And I got anxiety, man. I got anxiety. I had an anxiety attack. I've had 2 anxiety attacks in my life. They both happened the same week during Labor Day weekend, 2017. So I'm like, this isn't right. Something's happening. I don't feel good. What is this? I thought I was sick. And I went to every doctor, every specialist. I did every MRI, every brain scan, every piece of blood work you can do. And all the doctors at the end said, hey, man, you just have GAD, general anxiety disorder. I'm like, what is anxiety? Like, you have anxiety. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. What is it? Can you describe it to me? Well, you got the weight, of the world on your shoulders and blah, blah. And they didn't even tell me, like, okay, this is what you need to do, right? So they're like, take these. What are these? Klonopin and Paxil. Take this at night, take this one at night. Take this one in the morning, right? So they gave me Klonopin, 20 milligrams, half a pill at night, half a pill in the morning. They gave me Paxil, 20 milligrams. Klonopin was 0.05 milligrams. I apologize. Paxil was 20 milligrams. So I'm on these pills. And you know what those pills do to you? They shut down your ability to feel, like your emotional state. So don't get me wrong. This was like our superpower for me and Sal. Sal's on Klonopin, I'm on Klonopin. Right? We feel nothing, we know nothing. We're like, yeah, baby, like stress is not even a factor. See, a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that me and Sal were on the super pills. See, where you're over there working out and trying to, reduce your stress levels. We're like, I mean, that's exactly what we did for a few years. But at some point I'm like, man, like I'm not really living life. Like I got a baby girl here. I got my beautiful wife. Why am I not feeling grateful? Why am I not present? Why am I not feeling? You see?
Right.
So I said, I got to get off these pills. Like my soul was telling me, you need to get off these pills. So in March of 2019, I went to see a doctor called Dr. George Pratt in La Jolla. Dr. George Pratt has treated the likes of Tony Robbins, Andre Agassi, Phil Mickelson, Rob Dyrdek, like all these big names, right? And I started doing some work with Dr. Pratt in La Jolla, and I started to see some progress, right? Okay, all right, this is helping me. Then I start to hire I got a spiritual mentor mid 2019. I got you met him, Christian Ferris, hired him as a spiritual mentor. I did about 6 months with him. I hired several. One of my amazing coaches to this day right now, her name is Tanya Oliver, and now she's coaching Terry Thayer, Chrissy Thayer, Art Sanchez, his wife. Like she's coaching all kinds of people now because they started to see what I was transforming or transitioning into. Brother, I can tell you this in your eyes right now, because like personal development saved my life, saved my marriage, saved my everything. Personal development, me going in internally and peeling back the layers of the onion and slowly but surely getting rid of a lot of that baggage that was holding me down, right? It's been able, over the past 12 months, bro, like it's catapulted me to a level that I didn't imagine, right? And I can sit here and look at you in the eyes, which I told one of your crew members here that I was going to look at you in the eyes. Right? And I got rid of, I'm no longer on Paxil. I'm no longer on Klonopin. I'm just no longer on anything that doesn't serve me anymore.
That's amazing,
so,
bro.
That's why personal development, it saved my life, man. So that's why I believe in it. I spent $144,000 last year. And when I say personal development, I'm not just saying like, oh, it's just I'm paying coaches. No, don't get me wrong. You know, I pay coaches. I got several coaches that don't not only treat me, but they actually give my wife 2 sessions a week. I pay full. By the way, this is what a lot of people don't understand, and I hope people out there like really understand this and respect this if they're trying to become massively successful past themselves into the next generation. My 8-year-old has a personal development coach. She does 2 sessions a week with Tanya. My wife has a personal development coach with Tanya. She does 2 sessions a week. So now, not only am I making sure that I elevate, I'm making sure that my family, especially my next generation, which is my oldest baby girl, she's come a long way. Her emotional intelligence right now is ridiculous. And she's the only 3rd grader at school that is making about $100 to $120 a week selling toys. I didn't even tell her to sell toys. I'm like, you know, she's like, baby, why do you sell toys? Well, you know, because I like business. Well, why do you like business? Because I see you do it. You see, it's all demonstration, right, for our children.
Right.
So that's why I strongly believe, man, in like developing spiritually, mentally, physically, everything. And that's why I'm going to spend the $250,000 this year, and we'll see what next year has has in store for me.
I love that, bro. How we've gotten to this inflationary state is that the government has printed trillions of dollars since the pandemic. And the government will tell you they had to print it because of everything going on and that it was going to be transitory. And I might believe that if they were going to stop printing money. But the reality is, I would not make that bet, and my guess is they're gonna continue to print money at crazy levels. And one of my favorite books, The Price of Tomorrow by Jeff Booth, actually predicted this would happen well before the pandemic. And I really like that book because it opened my eyes on what was truly happening in the world with our money system and with technology. Basically, what's happening is tech is increasing at an exponential rate. But those increases aren't making things cost more money. Tech is actually making things cost less. If you think about when the first cell phone came out, it cost thousands of dollars. But over time, as tech got better and as more competitors entered the market space, the cost of a cell phone decreased significantly. The same thing happened with the plasma TVs. Initially, they cost thousands of dollars and it was a luxury item for most people. Now you can go get a really good TV for a few $100s. And those are just examples of goods where tech has made them cheaper, but also increased how good they are. An example of services where tech is making things cheaper and better is with Airbnb and Turo. Before, you could only stay at a hotel in one little room and it was really costly. Now you can go rent out an entire house for less than the price of that hotel room and go bring a bunch of people with you and have a better experience. Turo has done the same thing in the rental car market. If you try and go get a rental car with Hertz or Avis right now, the prices are insane. But if you go and try and rent a car on Turo, it's significantly less and you can get a better car. So the whole point of the book is that tech is decreasing the prices while also increasing the value of those different services and products. So it's a really cool thing for us as consumers, but it's a bad thing for the government. You see, the government is incentivized to push inflation. If the value of your home is constantly going up, it forces you to do many things like sell it or refinance so that you can get that money back and go spend it in the economy. If you own stocks and they print more money and it flows into those stocks, now the value of your stocks go up and you're gonna go sell or borrow against them and spend more money. And that's why a small increase in inflation each year is a good thing that the government wants. But the moment we start having deflation, people act in ways that are not good for the economy. If the value of your house is going down, you're not able to refinance or sell it and go spend money. You have to hold the house. And if you know that your assets' values are decreasing, you are gonna be less likely to spend money. You're gonna be more likely to save instead. And the thing is, the government doesn't want you to save money because if you're not saving money, you're not spending it on the economy. And if you're not buying my products or somebody else's products, then we're not able to go create jobs and innovate new things. And so by pushing for inflation, everyone wins. Well, actually, I shouldn't say everybody because people lose if they're not putting their money to work in some type of assets. If your money is sitting in the bank making 0.001%, you are losing money today every time the government prints. And as I said before, the money printing is not going to stop. In fact, what Jeff predicted in that book was that the government was going to have to print exponential amounts of money to combat all the deflationary pressure that tech is creating. And that's exactly what we're seeing. They are printing more than ever in order to keep things moving along this path. Now, I think we all agree that this path will end at some point. There's no way we can continue to just push prices up in order to keep things rolling. And that leads to the two most common questions I get of when is it gonna crash and what am I gonna do when it does? And it's funny because I've recently been doing these Golf with Ryan days and most of the questions I get are related to this. And they say, I know you're buying a lot of real estate, but what are you gonna do when it crashes? And to give some context to what they're talking about, if you don't know, I have over 60 active flips going on right now in Las Vegas. Those flips alone have over $20 million of debt on them. I also recently bought a 334 unit apartment complex. And I have a rental portfolio of Airbnbs and single families that I own individually. So my point is, I've got a lot of debt in real estate right now, and that is my biggest liability if something were to crash. But I'll be honest with you, as it stands right now, I'm trying to buy even more. As I've watched all this inflation and money printing play out for the last year and a half, I've noticed that it has been a huge benefit to me. In years past, our average house flip was around $20,000, which was pretty good. But this year, we're well over $50,000 in average profit, and it's not because we've all of a sudden gotten so much better or we're getting better deals. The reality is, prices are appreciating so fast due to all these different government policies that it is making our flips that much better. So obviously for me, I'm trying to buy as many flips as possible because I believe the market is gonna still continue to go up as we go into 2022. And I'm not the only one who believes this. There have been many articles with people projecting as high as 10 to 20% increases. So if you're sitting on the sidelines waiting for a crash, you're probably gonna be sitting even longer. But here's another factor that I always tell people who ask me about a potential crash. One thing to think about is the money has already been printed and it is circulating out in the world. So if something does happen, the money is just gonna flow from one person to another. It's not like it's gonna just catch on fire and totally disappear. So once you have all of this money circulating, prices are naturally just going to go up or stay high. So in the event of a crash, somebody's gotta be prepared to take the money wherever it's going to flow. And honestly, I believe that one of the places it's gonna continue to flow is real estate. And it's not just because I'm personally buying it, but I'm watching a lot of people who are much smarter than me do the same. When you see companies like BlackRock and Blackstone buying up all the real estate, you've got to take notice. By the way, I think I'm gonna call my next company Black Pebble, because if Blackstone and BlackRock have created billions of dollars, Black Pebble's got to be worth at least 100 million. So yeah, I'm gonna follow exactly what the big hedge funds are doing because they're a lot smarter than me, but on top of that, I'm fortunate enough to have a unique skill set in real estate. But I will say there's another hedge against inflation that I'm excited about. I do believe that cryptocurrency is here to stay and it's gonna continue to become enormous. Now, for those of you who've been following me for a while, then you know that I sold all my crypto earlier this year when everything tanked. And it hurts to admit that I had such paper hands because these paper hands cost me over $1 million. But I do believe in the technology overall. I really like Bitcoin, I like Ethereum, I like some of these other altcoins coming up, and I'm really excited about the NFT space. I've been looking heavily at doing an NFT for myself and adding real world value to that NFT. Unlike most, it would not just be a JPEG, but it would be something very similar to what Gary Vee has going on with VeeFriends. It would give exclusive access to my events, my courses, just different events with me like golf, and a whole bunch of other really cool things. And if you think that's something you'd be interested in, definitely comment below and let me know. But I will say, the last thing I wanna hold during inflation are US dollars because they are being devalued every single day that money is printed. You want to own assets like real estate, like crypto, or even stocks. Heck, I'd even buy gold over holding US dollars. But for me, as I look towards the future and what the government is doing, my main plan is to buy a lot of real estate and start doing some more things in crypto.
You know, we had a viral TikTok from your show where
That happens a lot.
it happens a lot, but
How many TikTok followers you up to?
1.1 million.
Nice. Broke a milli.
A milli, dude. So you said $20,000 does not get you much anymore. It's not enough to live on.
A year?
A month.
Oh, no. A month is where it starts to be.
Or basically you said this is what you said. You said life doesn't begin until you've made 20,000 a month.
Right. I agree. I do believe that.
Why?
Well, again, you can live on nothing and make $20,000 work and become, I would say, wealthy, or the wealthy way at least.
Yep.
It's just going to take a lot longer than if you were making more. But why 20,000? Because, and I'm not talking about 19,995, that's 20,000. But like if you're, let's say someone's making 120 grand a year, what are they paying in taxes?
You're gonna probably pay like 25, 30%.
At least.
Yep.
More like 40, but okay, let's say 30%.
Yeah.
So now they're bringing home how much?
At that point, you just lost
Let's say
40 grand.
Let's say 80 grand.
Yep. So
now they're taking home 80 grand.
Yep.
How much is rent on average? Anywhere. You got rentals.
2,000.
Okay. Now you got 6 grand left.
Mm-hmm.
How much is dry cleaning, cars, insurance, medical, toothpaste?
At least another 1,500, 2 grand.
You're going. Pretty soon you only have a couple grand left. And a couple grand's not going to get you rich. Now, read Richest Man in Babylon. They would say that's not true. Yeah, but they're talking about over a huge amount of time. I say we collapse time and we get rich quicker. And how do you get, and by the way, someone asked me the other day, why is recurring revenue the best way to get rich? And I said, who said that? And they said, well, what's the best way to get rich? And I said, quickly. instantly.
Whoever's going to pay you a fat chunk right now.
And I'll tell you what's funny, dude. I'll get a bunch of negative comments about getting rich quick.
Yeah.
That's bad. There's no such thing. See, we're educated from very young ages to be worker bees and limited thinkers.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing wrong with getting rich quick if you can figure out how. It is the best way to get rich. Now, some people will argue that. No. It's better that you take a long time so you learn and you don't lose it and blah, blah, blah. No, that's just all the educating and information we've been doing over the years, limiting ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's best to get rich quick.
I agree. I think that trying to build for the long term initially when you're broke is like not smart. You need to figure out how to make money right now. Go flip a house, go flip couches, go like do a high paying skill right now.
Yeah.
You know, your goal isn't to go buy a property that makes you $100 cash flow a month. That ain't making you rich. That ain't doing anything for you today. Like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, great. Yeah, it's going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not going to live an epic life the next 10 years owning 5 rentals. You know, even if you had 5 rentals paid off, free
That's
and
not
clear.
making you rich.
Yeah, you ain't rich doing that. You're rich on paper, but you're not living.
You're not even rich on paper. Like, dude, don't you think like when I was a kid, I thought I wanted to be a millionaire, assuming that a millionaire was living at this whatever you want level. I didn't realize you need to be more than a millionaire, but I just figured $1 million, you could have anything you wanted. Well, nowadays that's not true.
No.
I know a lot of people that are their net worth is $1 million, dude, and they're not that freaking set up and styling.
No.
They're on their way, but $1 million's not much anymore.
Well, and
You
even
gotta
if
be
your
a-
net worth is that, you could still have it tied up in illiquid assets that.
Well, I think
You know?
you got to start, the one went to 10 minimum. So like 10 million is the new million. And I want to be more than just regular. So I've set my sights on $1 billion.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah.
That,
And I would bet that I make it. If you'd like to wager
okay.
any amount of money you want, I will bet you that I will be a billionaire, and you can have anybody do the accounting and verification
Okay.
before I die.
I'm not going to bet against you.
Because what's funny is if I died and I lost, I'd be dead.
Okay, there you go. That's a good bet for you to make.
Exactly.
Oh, geez. Oh, you always have the stupidest things.
Dude, listen, I heard you talking shit the other day with David Meltzer about my golf game.
You saw that?
Let me start off by saying that I used to have a very negative connotation of those who were making money and spending it on materialistic things. If somebody was out buying a new watch or a fancy car or taking those private plane rides, I would always think like, man, that person is such a waster of money. They're just flaunting and doing all this stuff, and I would have natural envy/bitterness towards those people. On the other end of the spectrum, I'd have a really high respect level for somebody who was making good money, but choosing to be super frugal and saving it. These were the people that I wanted to praise because I grew up reading books like The Millionaire Next Door, where they talk about how that is the way to become really wealthy. But what I have realized is that these frugal people are actually some of the most greedy people and worst people for society and the economy. Which leads to the next question of how do you determine if somebody is a good member of society with how they manage their money? Well, it's pretty simple. You need to watch how money flows to them and through them. So let's talk about how money flows to them. How exactly are they attracting money? What people don't understand is the world tells you what you're worth based on what they're willing to pay you. And this applies to every aspect where money is exchanged. For example, if I'm your boss and I'm deciding how much salary or hourly rate I want to give you, I am simply looking at you, placing a value on what it is you are doing, and saying you are worth this much. And if you don't agree with it, and I am the person willing to pay you the most money, then you are worth that much money. That's what the world tells you you are worth, whether you agree with it or not. But this also applies to entrepreneurs in our business. If I am selling a product or a service, I'm going to put a price on it that I think it's worth. If nobody wants to buy it from me, that tells me they do not see value in this product or service, and therefore my business and what I'm selling is not worth very much. But on the flip side, if I'm able to go sell my products and services for a lot of money and there's a lot of demand, then it tells me that what I'm selling has a ton of value, and this is what people are placing that value at. So your customers and clients will determine your value based on how many dollars they're willing to pay you for your product. And this applies not only to businesses, but it also applies to charities and nonprofits. How much money you're able to raise for your nonprofit is dictated upon how much these other people are willing to give you because they believe in what you're doing and the value you're creating for the world. The biggest nonprofits have done the best job of explaining their value to all of these donors. If you have a nonprofit that's struggling to raise money, it means that people aren't valuing what you're doing enough. If you were doing a good enough job explaining it and people understood it, they would give you money to continue your cause. And look, you're not gonna hear this from society. We live in this culture of the participation trophy. If you try really hard at something, people should support you and give you a pat on the back and all this stuff. Congrats, you started a business or you did something nice for somebody, you get a pat on the back. People's true vote is with their dollars. They don't really mean it unless they're willing to give you money for it. And so if you're having a hard time attracting money, don't get offended by what people are doing. Simply change what you're doing and adjust and become more valuable. The richest people and organizations in the world are masters at attracting money to them. And it's not because they're just manipulators or they got this leg up or whatever. The reality is they are really good at communicating to the world the type of value they bring, and people are willing to give them money for that value. On the other hand, it's easy to tell when you're talking to a poor person because they complain that people don't value them enough, they're underpaid, that the world doesn't see their talent, and all this other stuff. And the reality is, complaining is never gonna get you anywhere. That's definitely not gonna make you more valuable. In fact, it's gonna continue to make you less valuable because nobody's gonna wanna work with a complainer. So the moral of the story is, whatever it is you're doing has a money value placed upon it by society, whether it's right or wrong. Now, once you figure out how to get money to flow to you, you then start judging a person on how money flows through them. Essentially, once you get the money, what exactly are you doing with it? Well, watching how people use their money is very telling of what it is they believe and what their priorities are. For example, let's take the people I talked about earlier that I really used to look down upon, who were spending all their money on fancy stuff, material things, and everything else. And let's just take the extreme example where they spend all of their money on that. They don't save it all, they're not donating, they're not giving to any kind of causes, it's all selfish stuff. Well, you can determine that that person has a pretty selfish nature because they're only concerned about fulfilling their own desires. But that doesn't necessarily make them a bad person for society in terms of how money is handled. In fact, those people are actually really important for society. The fact that they're spending a lot of money is helping all of the businesses that they're spending the money at. And because they're spending money at these businesses, others are able to have jobs and it keeps the economy flowing. And that's the key with money. You always want it to continue flowing. That is what makes the economy go. When the flow of money stops is when there's a problem. And this brings me to the other end of the spectrum, where you get people who are making good money, but all of a sudden they're not spending it, they're hoarding it, they may not even be donating it or investing it, they may just want to sit on a fat pile of cash because they probably have a scarcity mindset. This person is to not be applauded because they are stopping the flow of money and they're not helping anyone else by not spending, not investing, not donating. They're not doing anything productive for society. And that's why I said, these people are actually kind of the worst people for society. When the flow of money stops with one person, it is bad for everyone else. This is actually how you go into recessions. When people stop spending, that's when the layoffs happen, that's when companies go bankrupt, and it's just bad for everyone else. And the truth is, we all fall in between these two ends of the spectrum somewhere. There might be some of you watching this who are very passionate about donating and giving to causes. I could look at how the money flows through you and say, yeah, that is a priority for that person. Maybe you're not big on spending your money, but you want to invest it into businesses and real estate and other things. That's another great thing for society. You're helping the businesses, you're helping the real estate industry, you're helping all the workers with that real estate and those businesses. That's great. The flow of money is continuing. But if I saw somebody who put a lot of money towards investing, it tells me personally that they really value their future. They're willing to sacrifice spending now to have a payout in the long run. But the truth is, the ideal person for society is somebody who does all of these things. They're really good at attracting money because people see the value in what they're doing and they want to give them their money. They're then spending some money on material things because it's good for the economy. They're able to enjoy their life now and get some of the fruits of their labor today, but they're also disciplined enough to go donate to specific causes that they're passionate about. They're also reinvesting into different investments for their future, and then they're saving a smaller portion of their money. If you have too much money in savings, it's actually a bad thing for everyone. I'm not saying you shouldn't have any savings at all, but you should set a good reserve amount that's keeping you safe and allowing you to do all of the other things with your money. Which leads to the final point. What society has always told you about saving money isn't necessarily true. When the flow of money stops, it's not good for anybody.
What was the point where you were like, man, I'm just gonna start buying stuff? Like, what was that for you?
Yeah, so I think like people don't understand how frugal I was. Like when I became a millionaire, I was still driving a $10,000 truck. Like I eventually upgraded and bought
that.
a 2013 Lexus for $20,000, and I was like, I am freaking balling, dude.
Yeah.
Like this was such a big expense. I can't believe I bought that. But you know, my wife and I, we would never go out to eat very often, and if we did, it was like no more than $50, right? And then I think around 2020, but at that point I was a multimillionaire, but I was finding like, babe, we kind of got to start like living life a little more. You know, like let's go eat these places on the strip that we've never eaten because they were just so outrageous. So we started going to nice dinners and spending, you know, $300 for the two of us. And since then we spent over $1,000 for the two of us on a really nice, and I just realized like it's an experience. And the same thing with just vacationing. I'm like, let's get the best suite. Let's fly first class. So all of that probably started in 2020.
Okay.
And then 2021, you know, it just kept going. And now we're just at the point where, yeah, like that's our life now. And we have nice things. We have great experiences. But by no means is it like the point that I guess you and I always preach against where it's like, you can't afford to do that yet.
Yeah, no. There's levels to this stuff. Like you have to learn how to jump your levels.
Yeah.
And you have to understand when it's an expense and when it's a liability or when it's actually going to make you money.
Yeah.
You know, my buddy Austin, who we were talking about, you know, he one of his big things, he bought a Rolls. And in Columbus, Ohio, you got a Rolls.
You're a drug dealer.
You're a drug dealer. Yeah, and like it was he lived in this area that was very we'll call it transitional.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know, that's one of the reasons that he had to leave, you know. I mean, people see a Rolls in an area where you have rundown houses, but then, you know, $500,000 houses, which in Columbus that's a lot of money. You know, that's like a big thing. So yeah, man, you got to jump levels.
Yeah, you got to just know when it makes sense. Were you a guy who's like, have you heard of the FIRE movement? Okay. I forget what FIRE stands for. I wish I had like one of these podcast directors who looks up this stuff while we're saying it. Maybe next podcast. But it's like these people that really try to save money like super aggressively.
Oh, I was that guy.
Yeah.
I was.
That's why I was
that guy.
asking if you're a part of it. But like basically they have their, I forget what they call it. If you're in the comments, let me know below. But like it's like free fire or something. And like it's basically the 10,000 you mentioned. Like that's pretty much every FIRE person's goal. They're like, dude, just 10,000 passive. I'm good. Yeah, financial independence, retire early. Like that's their goal.
They're trying to do it by cutting expenses instead of increasing income, which I mean, we all know you can only cut your expenses to zero.
Yeah.
But still, like that's what we've been taught our whole lives. I mean, my parents is like clipping coupons and stuff, and you know, trying to save money on this, save money on that, and it's just what you know.
Yeah, not much. Like in my life, I literally have never budgeted. I've never been like, this is how much I make. Here's what I'm going to spend here. This is what I'm going to, like, I've never done it.
Never?
Never, not once. And even when I was like broke, I'm like, I just kind of had this feel where I'm like, okay, I make whatever, 5,000 a month. I'm not going to spend money. I can't afford it. You know, like I'm going to live on the bare minimum. And then when I made 6 figures for the first time, I'm like, okay, we can kind of like maybe eat out once a week now, you know? And then when I made over $1 million in a year, I was like, okay, we can go on vacation now. We can like, I was just always so frugal. And now, you know, thankfully we make a lot and I'm just like, it doesn't even matter. Like I could buy whatever I want and I'm not going to notice.
Yeah, it changes, man, for sure. And I mean, I remember, 2010, 2011, I'm living on my buddy's couch, Rob Pascarella in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, unfinished basement on this couch. And I remember getting these cheese sticks, and they were the off-brand cheese sticks because I like cheese.
Yep.
And I remember getting like the diet right because I didn't want to like spend the extra like 49 cents on like Coke Zero
Oh yeah.
and like Diet Coke.
Yep.
And like just like stuff like that, it's like that extra 50 cents, but then you do that over the course of a year, every week, like what you spend, over the year. And in my mind, I'm like for instance, I drove a 1995 GMC Sonoma. We called it the Blue Dragon.
Okay.
And this thing, dude, it putted around town, got me from point A to point B, but I didn't have a car payment. And when I did have a car payment, that was $350 a month. And so I'm thinking in my head, $350 a month times 12, well, that's like almost $4,000. Okay, $4,000 on a $100,000 house, 20,000 or 20% down payment. Dude, that's like a third of the way there.
Yeah.
Just by doing this one thing.
Yeah.
That's going to pay me for the rest of my life.
Right.
So I don't know. I've always thought that way.
Yeah. And I mean, especially with cars and stuff, my wife and I were the same way. Like, I was telling you, I was driving a $10,000 car. My wife had a 2007 Toyota Camry as of like a few years ago, because she liked it and it was fine. And I bought it all cash back in the day. And like, that was such a huge accomplishment for us, like early in our marriage. And like, it was fine. And then eventually I upgraded her to a super expensive Lexus, $20,000, and it was great. And she drove that for a long time. And then eventually we just kept scaling up. But I guess it's just people may see me now or you now and be like, oh, I got to buy the nice cars and all this stuff. And it's like, nah, until you're making some serious dough, you shouldn't.
Until it doesn't make a dent or make you blink, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Like don't try to keep up with the internet Joneses or the social media Joneses. Like, go through the process, man. Go through the freaking journey. That's what it's about.
Yeah. Tell me if you agree with this, though. There is one thing I would have changed while I was being frugal. I would have spent more money on experiences than I did. I don't want to say I regret it, but now I see the value of that, because before I was so hard-headed of like, oh, dude, like, why do they go on vacation and like do this dumb crap, and why do X, Y, Z? And I now realize the value of an experience to me is so much more than buying a car or material thing. Because like, I'll buy a watch and like it's cool the first week, and I'm like,
and then after that, like,
I'm like, okay, it was a watch, but like the experiences, I look back on my life at like so many things we've done. I'm like, dude, that was so cool. Like, that was so fun. And honestly, the experiences end up leading me to do other things that are really valuable. Like some of my best ideas that I've done in my business while we're on vacation.
We're on vacation when you were,
I was disconnected.
Yeah.
I'm like not worried about anything. I'm like chilling. I'm like, dude, this would be such a good idea. And then boom.
So I know, at least for me, the one thing that really that drove me into real estate was an experience like that. I took off from my job. I played hooky.
Yep.
And I got a promotion to actually run a gym and be a sales director at Urban Active. And my bosses were coming in that weekend. And my girlfriend at the time, she was like, hey, we're going to Fort Lauderdale and we're going to go to the Keys. And I'm like, no, we're not, because my boss is coming in. There's no way I can make this happen. She's like, no, you need to make it happen. I was like, okay, all right, cool, let's do it. So flew out on like Thursday night, was there Friday, Saturday, ended up going to Key West, Fort Lauderdale, hung out. But I remember very specifically, bro, I watched the sun rise, go up, because we went snorkeling in the morning. We were done at like 11:30, and the sun was kind of coming up. And then, some margaritas started flowing, hanging out with some different people. Hung out with all these different types of people in Key West. And I remember like it was like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and the sun was starting to set. And I'm like, shit, I have never experienced that. I've never watched a day go by.
Yeah. What a cool experience.
That to me was my entrepreneurial epiphany.
Yeah.
And when I came back, ironically, I met my very first mentor, Mark, who was a landlord and owned all these properties. And I'm like, well, if I can be like him, then I can experience this more.
Right.
So I kind of had like that thing, like that Tony Robbins, like you get the pain and the pleasure. I had the pain of like, working like a dog, 14, 16-hour days, sleeping on my buddy's couch. But at the same time, like I had this one experience that I held on to. And even to this day, I still hold on to that experience.
And that's my point, is like, what's more valuable to you? That
experience.
Yeah, that experience or the Rolex. The Rolex is come and
All
go.
day. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something for me, and for any of you listening who are maybe, in that frugal mindset, which is great, you're on the come up. I would say don't skimp out on experiencing things in life. And even for me, like I look back, when I was playing minor league baseball, right? I was making $1,200 a month, and
That's it.
that's it, dude. $1,200 a month. I did that for 8 years. The most I ever made was $1,600 in a month. So I was forced into entrepreneurship by default. I didn't want to. I wanted to just play baseball, dude. I could give a crap about YouTube and freaking flipping houses. I had to do something. And so, I'm not one of these guys who is always passionate about the camera or real estate. Like, honestly, I like real estate. It's blessed me and it's great, but I am really like agnostic towards all industries. I'm just like, hey, whatever I think is like going to make the most money and I think it's a good return on time and it's a good way to make money. Like, to me, that's business. Like,
dude, I don't enjoy seeing paint go up on walls. I don't like, I used to go and I used to be the guy that went in every single property and I'm like, look at this property. We just bought this one. We just bought this one. And just Instagram and everything. I'm like, dude, why are you the one that's doing all this stuff? Like, I don't even like doing it.
Yeah.
I don't like seeing paint go up or, and I'll get contractors that'll eventually, they'll text me or whatever. And then we have our own contract come. They're like, hey, look at this floor, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't care. Does it make money? Like, have we closed the HUD yet? Like, are we done?
And that
like,
for me,
I don't care.
I enjoy the process. I've realized now that I enjoy the process of creating businesses, creating jobs, creating products that help people. But however that product comes, whether it's a house or whether it's a course or whether it's tax or whether it's an NFT, I don't give a crap what it is. I just enjoy the product creation and the outcome. That's like what makes me happy.
But it's being a leader. It's being it's about the build. It's about community, camaraderie, like having the team.
Exactly.
Just building, man.
Yeah,
that's what gets me excited.
Yeah, and I think also too, I really enjoy that. That's probably why I can't like stay in just one business. I'm like, okay, what are we building next? Because I get bored. But my point with that was for those of you who are listening, who are frugal and building still currently, spend some money on experiences. Don't limit yourself in that aspect. Definitely don't buy the watch and the car and the crazy house yet, but spend some money on the
Buy
experiences.
the mastermind before you buy the Rolex.
Oh, 100%.
Buy the mastermind before you buy the Rolex, because then you're gonna have your business is gonna explode and allow you to buy the Rolex anyway.
100%. And so I want to talk about what my lifestyle was like during that time. All the way from the beginning when we were doing those very first house flips to the end of that period when we were starting to make some major money and have six-figure months. Now let me just say, one thing I have seen very often with wholesalers or flippers is getting that first big payday and buying something extremely stupid. And if you're watching this video and that's never happened to you, don't be alarmed. It's very unusual. For a lot of new flippers and wholesalers, when they go and make $20,000 on their first deal, it is the most amount of money they've ever made in a day. And it's actually really tough not to go spend that money on something nice. Maybe you've been waiting to go buy a new car. You've been waiting to get that watch. You've been waiting to go to that fancy dinner, whatever it was. Very few actually have the discipline to keep that money and reinvest it into the next deal, reinvest it into their business, and really see it grow. Thankfully for me, I realized early on that I wanted to reinvest every single dollar I got back into my business. For those of you who know my story, back in 2015, I had $10,000 cash to my name. I ended up maxing out my credit cards for $50,000 and used all of that money as a down payment on my first flip. Thankfully, it worked out. We made about $25,000, and I did not spend any of that on anything unusual. My lifestyle didn't increase. We ended up taking that money and reinvesting it into the next flip. And during that time, I still had my credit cards maxed out, trying to get into more and more deals. And honestly, that strategy lasted my first 2 years of flipping. I did 25 deals with maxed out credit cards and reinvesting all the profits into the next deal. And it served me well. In that first year, I did over $50,000 in profit. In year 2, it ended up being over $200,000. And let me tell you, $200,000 was more than I had made in my entire life combined. And all of that discipline of reinvesting the money back into my business set me up for year 3, where we did over $750,000. And so for those first 3 years, my business grew really fast, and I would have never imagined it when I first started flipping in year 1. But I definitely wouldn't have done what I did in year 3 if I would have spent my money in the wrong way. So even though I reinvested my money back into my business, I want to just give you an example of what my lifestyle looked like during that time. In 2015, when I first started, I was driving a 2004 Toyota Tundra. This is the same Tundra that I was driving while I was flipping couches. My wife, on the other hand, had a 2007 Toyota Camry. I bought both of the cars on Craigslist for $11,000 each, and they were awesome cars. I owned the truck cash, and we had a $200 payment on her Camry. As far as where we were living, we had bought our first house in 2014 together. My mortgage was about $1,200 a month, and we pretty much lived that exact lifestyle about a year and a half into my flipping career. In 2016, I actually sold the house we lived in so that I could get more capital to flip more houses. And it wasn't easy convincing my wife to do that because she loved our home. It's our very first one, but I explained to her that we needed more capital to build the business. And this has been a constant theme in our marriage and in my life was that I'm gonna do whatever it takes to push my business to the next level. If it requires me selling my personal home, if it requires me selling a car, if it requires me working long hours, I'll do what it takes to hit my goals. And so we sold that house and actually moved into another condo, so we downgraded. And my promise to her was that I'd find us a new house to buy. I just needed some time. So this was not permanent, it was simply temporary. In the middle of 2016, we ended up finding that home. It was a house that we bought for $200,000 and we ended up remodeling it. Now we did go a bit overboard on the remodel. Our budget was $50,000 and we ended up spending $80,000. This typically happens in your personal residence. You spend way more than you think. But we ended up refinancing it after the renovation and we got a lot of that money back. But I'll say that was the first time we really splurged on ourselves. Until then, we were very frugal. We weren't spending any money on anything. We didn't go to Starbucks. We didn't do all these things you see people do. But I just knew that the big renovation would pay for itself in the end, in the long term. And if we're living the way we want to live, it's going to make me work better. It's going to make me work harder. I'll be more creative because I'm in a space that I'm comfortable in. And plus, back then, I didn't have an office. So I had an office in that house, and that's where I was predominantly working. Around that time also, I ended up giving my truck to my dad. So my dad started working for me and he had about a 20-year-old Suburban. And I just knew I didn't want to drive the truck anymore because I found myself going to all the job sites, bringing materials and all that stuff. And I said, if I get a different kind of car, it'll force me not to do that and I should be able to find more deals and make more money. And if I can help my dad out and give him my truck now, it's gonna be a win-win. So I ended up buying a 2011 VW Tiguan. Now, for those of you who don't know, this is like the girliest car ever. But the only reason I bought it was because it was $9,000. It was a night and day tech difference from the Tundra. It had Bluetooth, it had leather, it had all that stuff. And so even though it was a girl car, I was fine with it because it was an upgrade tech-wise and it was better on gas. Now fast forward into 2017, we've got our new house that's renovated. I've got a new car. We're still not going on crazy vacations or anything like that. In fact, we'd only go really on one big vacation a year, which was a cruise. Cruises were our jam because they're really cheap and you get to go to a lot of cool places. I highly recommend cruises if you want to get the best bang for your buck. So anyways, we go into 2017 and this was my breakout year. It was the first time I ever raised private money to start buying flips with. I didn't have to keep using my own money and maxing out my credit cards anymore. I now found my first lender who was gonna lend everything on all these flips. And I'm super grateful for him because if I didn't have him, I would have been in the same path I was on. And so getting that first private money lender definitely sent me up the trajectory. And as I mentioned before, in 2017, we made over $750,000. And I'll just say that was mind-boggling. I did not go into the year thinking that that was possible. I just was getting as many deals as I possibly could. The other part of it was, during this whole time, I was still playing baseball.
Galileo about halfway. Pineda swings. It's a high fly ball, deep left field. Back goes Lucci, looking up at the wall, and it's gone!
In fact, in the middle of 2017, I was playing baseball having my worst season ever. And it was mainly because I had so much going on in Vegas on the real estate side. I'd be in the dugout texting people, I'd be in the clubhouse sending emails. It was super stressful. And my play on the field reflected that. But it was weird because I was so happy about my real estate business, but very mad about how baseball was going. And I just could not bring myself to quit, even though I knew real estate was the way to go. And so thankfully, my team actually released me because I was playing so poorly. And it ended up being the best thing that happened to me because when I got home, I really, for the first time in my life, could focus solely on real estate and building my business. It was during this time that we opened up our first office. I started my brokerage, Forever Home Realty. I started branding myself on the flipping side and opened up Home Run Offer. And it was a really crazy time transitioning from athlete to businessman. But here's the thing, even during all this success, we still stayed very frugal. As far as cars go, I got tired of the VW and I ended up giving it to my sister because she needed a new car as well. and I ended up buying a 2013 Lexus RX 350. Now, once again, the Lexus RX is not the most manly car, but I had always wanted a Lexus. It was my dream. And I actually only paid $20,000 for that car, so it's not like I was still buying expensive stuff. Mindy was still driving her 2007 Toyota Camry. She had no desire to upgrade. She loved that car. And what was even more exciting about that year was the first time we started buying rental properties with all this money we were making. While I was playing baseball, I actually bought our very first Big Bear property. Mindy and my sister Noelle went and saw it while I was playing. They gave it the thumbs up, and we ended up closing. And honestly, when I first bought that property, it was mainly just to be a second home for us. But as many of you know, we ended up buying a bunch more, and now it's one of my favorite markets. Later on, I ended up buying my second property in Big Bear, and those 2 deals alone have been 2 of my very best deals I've ever done in my career. I also made a couple mistakes and bought some rentals in the Midwest that I don't really want to talk about. I got caught up buying the $15,000 homes that look really good on paper, but end up being way more headache than they're worth. But that's literally how we spent $750,000. Bought rental properties, upgraded my car a little bit, was still living in the same house. We weren't buying the Gucci bags, there was no Louis Vuitton, there was no watches, there was none of this stuff. And being so disciplined with the first million in those 3 years really allowed us to take off in 2018. And 2018 was the very first year we did over 100 deals. We made over $2 million in profit. We started opening up other businesses. Things started to get really rolling, and it's only because of those first 3 years of being ultra disciplined. And so the only advice I can give you is if you're fortunate enough to make $1 million in a short amount of time, which for me, 3 years was a very short amount of time, then you need to be ultra disciplined. You need to make sure that you're reinvesting it into your business, not your lifestyle. Trust me, the lifestyle stuff can come later. Now I do spend on the cars. Now I do have a really nice house. I'm probably gonna buy a nice watch, but it's only because I know I can buy those things and it's not gonna hurt my business. When you're building your business early on, every dollar counts, so don't waste it.
That's good though, because that'll be the first thing we ask for is like, hey, not only tell me about it, but show me the financials. I need to, and that's where I tell people like, this tax stuff is cool, but like if you don't have just the core function of your records together, you're so behind. You're gonna feel jumbled, and then you lose out on opportunity.
Well, and think about it too. You're trying to be acquired and you don't have it. I'm gonna like definitely give you a lower offer.
Exactly. Exactly. Just like you should, because there's associated risk with it now. You don't know what you're looking at. You're like on a gamble. So I totally would.
Dude, you know what's so funny? It's not funny because everyone got screwed. But like this whole FTX thing.
Yeah.
Dude, they're like, yeah, no, we didn't have an accountant. I'm like, what?
Did Brady really lose $100 million, they were saying?
They said like 600 mil.
Oh.
No,
Oh, yeah,
well,
maybe it
I
was like
think
600 to a billion.
But I think it was just like on paper.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think he had 100.
Oh, maybe value went up at that. Okay,
like
yeah,
because
yeah.
he had equity.
Yeah, that
right?
makes sense. Okay.
But
Yeah, that's crazy.
dude, like the guy's saying, yeah, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. Like they literally have no accounting.
Yeah, you know who said that too?
the
Was
Enron guy.
The Enron guy, which is like, I mean, like for those of you, I'm very familiar with that. My wife is literally employed because of what happened to Enron.
What is she, how did that happen?
So she's a SOX compliance manager.
What's
so
SOX?
Sarbanes-Oxley. After Enron, they came in and said, hey, Sarbanes-Oxley are basically rules that these public companies have to follow internally. And then they have a division that writes the rules. They have a division that comes in and tests the rules. Me and my wife met working in the division that tests them. Now she works on the division that writes them.
Oh.
So that's where you have the guy coming from Enron who saw like the worst of the worst and coming is like, this is worse.
This is way worse.
Yeah. So
These
that
kids
was
are in the Bahamas
so
just
crazy.
banging each other.
Yeah.
Like not keeping any records of anything.
So, but, and that's what's amazing to me is like, I see it at a small scale. Somebody will come to TrueBooks and they're making millions and they just have nothing together. And I'm like, well, dude, kudos to you because you're doing something right. But then like, shame on you because like you're terrible at record keeping. Like you could have thrown 40 grand to an assistant to help
like,
you.
look, when I came to there was
True,
no
you were-
TrueBooks.
yeah.
There was just you. That's how I was.
Yeah, true. So that's where it's like, man, like people can make a lot of money. There's a lot of money moving hands, but like take the time to like hire somebody or delegate to get it in order.
Well, that's why I hired you, and that's why they hired you.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
We all have the
So then find
self-awareness.
somebody like me faster.
Just no, they're listening.
Yeah, true.
They found it.
Yeah,
it's
they
here.
did. They did. Exactly.
But no, the FTX thing, man. I'm like, just my mind is blown because he's like, yeah, like we lost $8 billion. I wasn't sure where it went. Like it could have been either an FTX or Alameda. It was weird. We just couldn't figure out.
Do they think they're solvent and will be able to at least cover client deposits? I can't remember if that was a yes or no. Like, will they cover what people had in cash?
No.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
No. Like, well, what Sam said was FTX US, he says is solvent, but you can't believe anything he says.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But the international is definitely not.
What was Alameda?
That was like his hedge fund, his own hedge fund. So what they were doing was they were commingling. That was the whole thing.
Oh.
And so people would wire their funds to Alameda because FTX didn't have bank account initially. But I mean,
So he would potentially trade it
on
in
one hand, I
Alameda.
get why, because crypto is like hard to get banking for.
Mhm.
Like I remember reading the story of Coinbase. Like they were having issues, like lots of companies were having issues getting banking for crypto because their crypto's trying to get rid of the banks.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
like, why are they going to,
Exactly.
whatever. So I understand that part, even though it's stupid. Like they sent the money to Alameda, then Alameda would send it to FTX, but they don't have no balance sheet or
yeah.
debits or credits. It's just like, oh, there's money.
That's so crazy. And like, that's what's crazy too, is banks now are still having challenges like dealing with certain industries. OnlyFans is one of them. Cannabis industry is still having real a ton of trouble with that. Crypto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All these new emerging side hustle industries.
Which the other name that I heard of the other day was Carrot again. I feel like they're still staying around. You know, Carrot Financial.
Carrot.
Yeah, remember Carrot, like KARAT. They
Oh,
reached out to you.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, my credit card. Yep.
Yeah, but right, like when that name came on, I was like, okay, first time of hearing of you. Like you're like an influencer style, like right, like you cater to that industry. I was like, okay, well, I mean, like they're still around, they're doing well.
Yeah, he's trying to start a bank. That's what he's trying to do.
Interesting.
I think that's what Cardone's trying to do too.
Start a bank.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good business model, but I guess right, if you can find good use for the money, which we know Cardone can.
Yeah, he'll go throw it.
Yeah.
He's got a million things to
I
throw
know
at
where
it.
that's going, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, all these wild financial schemes, which I guess right, we'll preface with like, don't send your money places that you just don't trust.
Well, what's crazy is you would think you could trust FTX because, all these hedge funds threw billions of dollars at them. And you're like, oh, well, surely they did due diligence.
Yep.
And to your point, if I go to acquire a company, I'm like, show me the books.
Yep.
What were these guys doing with FTX? He was just like, nah, invest or don't. And
Which
they were
is-
like,
yeah.
okay.
Probably exactly how it went down because of also like the market craze, right? They felt
Yeah,
like
everybody wanted in. And he was like, I ain't showing you anything.
they were hopping on something that they felt that was so exclusive.
Yeah.
And now you're real exclusive. You're part of a group that has nothing.
Yeah, somebody was saying they already wrote off the entire thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. That just came up in a debate the other day with another CPA was for you to write off an investment like that, my understanding is you have to at least communicate it to the business that like you're doing it. You couldn't just, right? Because the risk is the potential payback.
Yeah.
So
if you get paid back,
yeah. So if you write off 100K and then later on you receive funds from it, that could be taxable. So if you're going to take the tax loss, you got to communicate it.
well, I guess my more fear would be if they're like, oh, you wrote it off, you don't expect to get it back.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, that too.
Can that would be my fear.
That's all legal if that would entitle you to no payback, but my guess is no. But that's where like this would all
You're
be
still
down in-
entitled to a payback,
Yeah.
but you can take your loss now. And if you get lucky,
you
you're
get some
happy
money
to
back. Yeah.
pay tax on it.
I would assume that's in some user agreement that they sign, which who knows what those say now.
I'd be surprised if they even had an agreement.
Oh, it's so crazy to see something like that blow up so low. And it's just a bad look for everything.
On one of my coaching calls, I recently gave a presentation on the 5 R's of productivity. These 5 things are what has allowed me to build multiple businesses, still spend time with my family, and really work efficiently compared to almost everyone else I know. They're things that most people wouldn't really do or think that is productive, but actually leads to a ton of success if you just follow them properly. So I'm actually gonna give you guys the full presentation I gave to my students so that you guys can start being more productive as well. So hope you like the clip. I pretty much created a framework that I think is valuable for you guys that I'm calling the 5 R's to increase productivity. So we're going to talk about 5 different things that you should be doing. They're going to increase your productivity throughout the day, every day. And the hope is that if you do these things daily and you start, applying these principles to your life, you're not going to get results tomorrow, but in the long run of things, you're going to have massive success. I can guarantee it. If you just take these principles
on a day-to-day basis. So are you guys ready? Because I'm going to fly through this. All right, let's jump into it. First off, they're all five start with the letter R. And these are the things I think are the most important to being productive on a daily basis. Okay, so the first R, you can write these down, is routine. Okay, you guys have heard me talk about routine a lot, and I know you're probably bored of it, and that's like the worst first one to tell you guys because you've heard it a million times. But the reason it's number one is because it's literally the most important. I cannot stress that enough. If you guys have inconsistent routines, and I'm also talking on the weekends too, all right? You're going to get inconsistent results. You're not going to get the momentum that a good routine gives you. The reason that you develop momentum is because you're constantly doing the same things over and over again, and it just starts to exponentially grow. But if you work really hard one day and then you slack off the next day, and you eat like crap one day, and you know, eat good the next day, you just will not get results. Like, that's just how it goes. It's literally impossible. So you need to develop a routine that, number one, fits your lifestyle, but number two is going to lead to the results you want, right? Like, we know in this business, if we want to get more deals, we've got to talk to more leads on a daily basis, right? That's literally it. That's what it comes down to. Yeah, we can get better at closing people and all that, but if you want to increase your deal flow, you need to generate more leads. That's the simple fact of the matter. So if you want to be more productive in life, you need to change your routine that fits the lifestyle you want to live. Okay. This is a quote that I just came up with that I could not think is more true, but you are the product of your schedule. Okay. I want to repeat that. You are the product of your schedule. If you're out of shape, it's because you don't fit working out and eating right into your schedule. If you don't have the money you want, it's because you're not fitting business properly into your schedule. If you lack a relationship with God, it's because he's not in your schedule. If you got marriage problems, it's because your marriage isn't a priority in your schedule. Like, literally, every result of your life is dictated by your schedule. So some simple things you need to do to define your schedule and your routine are, number one, to me, these are the most important. First off, sleep, okay? Figure out what time you're going to sleep every night and when are you waking up. Get consistent with it. You should not be irregularly going to bed and waking up at different times. It should be the same every day. That is like, if you don't believe me, go listen to a podcast I did with John Acuff. That was one of my favorite podcasts. And he talked about how, like, basically there's two mornings, you know, there's the morning when you wake up from your sleep, but there's also like the second morning, or I forget what he calls it, where you go to bed, right? Because when you go to bed actually dictates what happens the next day. If you go to bed late, you eat late, you just drink a lot, the next day you're toast, right? You've already ruined the next day because of what you did at night, the previous day. So you need to take your sleep very seriously. That's something I do. Like, I go to bed anywhere from 10 to 11 almost every single night. I wake up every day from like typically 5 to 6 a.m. and I'm good with 6 hours of sleep a night. Like, I'm cool with it. And the reason I'm cool with it is because my body's done it for years, right? If you were to try and sleep 5 to 6 hours a night and you usually get 7 to 8, you wouldn't be able to handle it, right? Your body would be like, dude, like, I don't have enough sleep. I'm freaking dying. Okay. That's true. You can't just stop sleeping 2 hours less a night. Your body can't handle it. But over time, you can build your body to being able to do that. And that's what I've done. I used to sleep 8 hours a day. And then one day I was like, you know what? I want to sleep less. Like, I want to be more productive. So I slept 7.5. Then I slept 7. Then I slept 6.5. Now I'm at 6. And my energy levels are fine. You guys see me. I can go do whatever. I don't care. You know, I was golfing before the mastermind at the event after partying. Like, I'm good. So my point is, you need to train yourself to sleep on a consistent basis with your routine. It's the number one, probably most important thing to your energy levels, is the amount of sleep you get and what times you get it at. The second thing is your workouts. Okay. So some of you guys, let me just get a show of hands. How many of you guys are working out at least 3 times a week? All right. My man Clint lost how many pounds? 50, 60 pounds?
Since your mastermind, when you spoke about how you can outperform other entrepreneurs because you're in better shape and you can perform better as an entrepreneur. That was January, I think 26th. I came back and started. I've lost like 62 pounds.
Dude, give Clint a round of applause. 62 pounds in 6 months. It's insane. And guess what? Do you think it's a coincidence you're about to hire a guy who, you know, was on pace to do 25 million? You know, you think that your mind is going to be right and you're going to be confident enough and that you're going to hustle and go get this guy like in your previous state? Probably not, you know?
Yeah. I've seen more growth, like personally, over the past 6 months than I ever have in my life, and I attribute a lot of that to you, Ryan. From you know, just watching you and learning from you about how you do that. So you changed my life for sure.
I appreciate that, bro. That means a lot. So workouts, okay? All of you need to work out at least 3 times a week. I prefer 4 to 5 times if you're ready to just take this serious, okay? But workouts, do them every day and also do them at the same time, right? We're talking about routines. Don't be like, oh, I work out at 2 today. I work out at 8 a.m. this day. Like, no, dude, you do them at the same time every day because guess what? When you work out dictates how you sleep. Okay. If you work out at night, it's going to jack up your sleep one day. And then you try to work out in the morning the next day, you're going to be all jacked up and your body's not going to recover properly. My body recovers because it knows it's going to get the same 24 hours of recovery every day after the workout. It's not an inconsistent routine with when I lift. So your workouts need to be on schedule. Your workday needs to be on schedule too, right? Like, what times are you working? Are you inconsistent? Do you some days you work really hard and you go from 8 a.m. to 8 at night, and then other days you go like 2 hours and you're good, right? Like, no, it should be the same consistent time every time. That's why I always say, like, for me, I'm 10 to 5. That's what I do. It works for me. I get enough done. I don't need to do anything crazier, right? So, you know, your work needs to have a schedule. And then everything else too, with your family, with your faith, you know, with your hobbies, all those things need to be on the same routine. Okay. So the big challenge I'm making to all of you is get a routine and stick to it and make sure every point in that routine is the exact same. If it sounds weird and it sounds like a crazy life, oh well, just try it out. Try it for 2 months and see what your life ends up becoming, having the same routine every single day. Okay. You guys with me? All right.
Ryan, quick question.
Yeah.
How do you pivot like when you have to travel though?
So when I travel, it's a little bit different, right? So I talk about the routine with, you know, your normal routine. Okay. Like you're in the office, you're at like, there's no reason you couldn't get your routine done, right? Travel's always going to be different, right? Like I'm in New York yesterday. My routine's going to be a little different than my normal routine. I got to go meet PBD and stuff, but like I still take the same principles with my routine. You know, I didn't even talk about my morning routine, right? Like I go read my Bible, I pray, I go fill out my Wealthy Way planner. I do all that stuff. I still do that when I'm gone. You know, that doesn't change. If I can work out at the hotel, I work out at the hotel. Like that will not change either. And then, you know, when I travel and it just is what it is while I'm out of town, right? But I'm going to Mexico next week. It's for a mastermind and a vacation. I will work out every morning. I will, you know, do my morning routine. And during the day, instead of work, I'm just vacationing instead. That's really the only thing that changes. You know, when I go on vacations, I'm just not working. So that's all that changes when I am out of town. But I try my very best to eat the same foods, to do the same schedule and everything in between. So, okay. Second thing, okay? That was the first R. Routine. All right. Number 2, repeat. Okay. So here's what repeat means. If you want to be good at something, you just need to do it a lot. There is no other way around it. Okay. If you want to be great at social media, you better make social media videos a lot. You're just not going to get good at it one day by just reading about it. You want to get good at golf? You better go practice every day. That's why I started practicing every day, because I'm not going to be as good as I want to be if I just dream about being good. You want to get good at analyzing deals or talking to sellers? You better analyze 100 deals a day. You better talk to 100 sellers a day. That is the only way to master a skill, right? I have never seen anybody become great at something reading about it. or just doing it a few times. The best experts in the world have done it thousands and thousands of hours. You know, they got that rule that, you know, you got to do something 10,000 hours to be a master, right? How many of you guys have heard of that rule? Right? Like it's a pretty common rule. I don't think it fits everything. I think there are people who can be outliers and who can learn way quicker than everyone else. Like I consider myself to be like that with many things I do. It just depends on how good those hours are, right? Like I want to be clear with this. Repeating something on a consistent basis has levels, okay? If you're just mindlessly repeating something and you're not focused and you're not really taking it serious, then yeah, it might take you 10,000 hours to do something and become really good at it. But I can promise you, if you are extremely focused and you are giving it your all, you are just doing it at the highest level of intensity and focus and discipline, it won't take you 10,000 hours. It might take you a third of the hours versus somebody who mindlessly does something, you know? So for me, you know, when I golf, because that's like a skill I'm learning right now, right? In this boat, is like, I'll practice for an hour a day, but I guarantee you my hour practice is equivalent to maybe someone else's 10 to 20 hours because I'm just like so focused and into it that it's not the same. Every hour is not created different or equally for everyone. Hours are created differently in how you use them. You know, if you're talking to a seller and, you know, you're able to retain that information so much better than somebody else, and you're able to basically learn from it and use it the next time you talk to a seller and pivot and adapt, you're already moving way quicker. Because for some people, they might need to hear it 10 times from a seller before it finally clicks. And they're like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't say that. And then, you know, it took them 10 times to finally do it. Whereas if you're really good and you do it and you learn once, your coach or whoever you're learning from tells you like, hey, don't do it like that. And you're able to just fix it the next call, you're different, right? Like we had this in baseball all the time. You know, they talked about slumps. How many of you guys have had a slump in business or sales or anything, right? The best athletes get out of slumps quicker than everyone because they're able to just take their information and start making different moves, right? Like I can feel if my swing is off or if I'm making the wrong mistake, and I'm able to quickly change it and adapt, you know, instead of doing it for the next 2 weeks and staying in a slump because I'm slow to adapt and change. So for all of you, you know, you want to become great at something, repeat something over and over again, thousands and thousands of times. There's no other way around it. Do it, you know, for as long as you're able to stay focused. You know, if you know you can only talk to a seller for say 2 hours a day at extreme focus, don't talk to them for 6. You're just wasting your time. Like it's just inefficient. You know, go use the other couple hours a day for something else that's you can be focused on. I can't do golf for 6 hours a day. So I don't golf for 6 hours a day. It's just like I wouldn't get out of it. But for an hour to 2, 100%, I can be in extreme focus and do what I want to do. So repeat everything that you want to be great at thousands and thousands of times and do it literally every day. You want to be great at it? Do it every day. How bad do you want to be a great salesperson? How bad do you want to be a great leader? You know, what are you doing to become a great leader every day? Are you talking to your team every day? Are you having conversations with your employees? Are you reading books on leadership? Are you talking to a mentor who's a leader and getting their feedback on how you could become a better leader? You know, there's lots of ways to repeat what you're doing from different angles. You know, when I think about, like, I'm just using golf as an example. I know it's dumb, but it just happens to be what I'm like really working on. What I do is obviously I have a coach. I go and learn from him. I watch TV because I want to see like what the pros are doing and analyze them. And I want to hear their lingo and the things that they say and talk about. I want to go play and just see kind of like what it's like in the actual game, right? Because with repeating, there's practice, you know, in the sales game, role play, books, all that stuff with learning. And then there's game time. And game time and practice will teach you 2 different things. And you learn what you need to practice from playing the game. Okay, so you have to have a combination of practice and game time in everything that you do. So you want to be great at sales? Talk to sellers, screw up, go practice it outside of the sellers, role play, learn, listen to a mentor, then go back in the game, do it right. Does that make sense with repeating? Okay, good. Third thing, The next R to increase your productivity, remove. All right. You need to remove everything that is not productive in your life. Okay. Our time on this earth is so limited that if you say yes to everything, I mean, just like you're going to let other people dictate your life. Like that's what it comes down to. Your life will be what other people want it to be. So for me, my first initial reaction to everything is no. Like I say no to almost everything. Because I know that I want to do what I want to do, and I want to do the things that are most important to me. And I want to eliminate everything that's not productive in my life. You know, that could be friends. It could be people like that. You know, you guys all have them. People that always want something from you, right? Like they're not doing anything productive in your life, and they're always taking and taking and taking. You got to eliminate those people, man. Like that's the reality of it. It sucks, but you know, I've gotten to the point where I love to help people and I want to see people succeed, but there are people that just, you got to eliminate because I don't have time to talk to them all day. Right. With employees. All right. How many employees do you guys have that are bad apples that, you know, you're like, dude, friggin', I do not like working with this person. This sucks. It always makes my mood worse. You know, they're a letdown to the company, or maybe it's not even an employee, but it's a subcontractor or a lender or somebody that you work with, you know, in your business, but they're not employees of yours. Get rid of them. That's it. I literally don't work with people I don't want to work with. That's just what it comes down to. I have no shame in being like, I don't work with that person. Like they're annoying, or they don't share the same morals, or, you know, they just always take, right? Like, you don't have to work with everybody. There's nothing wrong with that. And I'll tell you, for me, everything that I say yes to, every business I've ever started, every endeavor I've ever taken on, every employee that we've ever hired, took me saying no significantly more times, thousands of no's, to finally find the winners and the yeses. Okay. I get pitched a new idea every week from somebody. You know, and in fact, I don't even take pitches anymore because they're not productive for me to hear a pitch, right? I'm like, you can email me. I might look at it. Like, I don't know, but somebody might look at it from my team, but it's probably not going to be me. You know, you got to just take out the things that aren't productive in your life. Remove them. Remove the people. Remove the activities. You know, if you're going out to the bars and partying every night, or, you know, on the weekends even, you look at it and be like, is this really productive to my life? Like, what am I gonna, like, why am I even doing this? Right? Oh, you know, all my friends are doing it. Like, are these friends really productive to your life? Like, tell me what are they really doing? You know, you're kind of at a different point in your life where it just doesn't make as much sense anymore. You know, you're trying to build a business. They can't really relate. You know, so I would look at your habits. I would look at people. I would look at the things you do and remove those things that don't make sense. Jeremy says bottle services for networking. Hey, look, if you want to go have bottle service at the Future of Flipper event, that's one thing, you know, once a quarter, and you're networking with people and having fun. I ain't saying this is the no fun zone. All right. I'm talking about on a daily basis, things that you need to remove, or even a weekly basis, right? Like, if you're going out every weekend and partying and your body's wrecked, you go out once a quarter and you party, you'll be fine. That ain't a big deal. All right. So unless you make a bad decision while you party, well, then you got a lifelong thing of problems. So keep that in mind there. All right. So Future Flippers, you have my permission to party once a quarter when I see you. Other than that, you guys shouldn't party. You guys are wasting your time. Okay. Fourth thing. All right. The fourth R is to replace. Okay. You need to replace. Okay. You just talked about removing stuff. You need to replace yourself with anything you're not good at, you don't like, and you don't think is worth your time. All right. So for me, I know what I'm not good at. Like, I know what I don't like to do. I know what's not worth my time. And I literally replace myself with all of those things. Okay. We talk about delegating and scaling and automating, and all of that is just hiring people, right? But you really don't realize how much you do that fits into one of those buckets of I'm not good at it, I don't like it, and it's not worth my time. Okay. Most things you do fit into one of those 3 buckets. So you got to be sure, certain of what you're doing. So for me, if I'm not good at it, I'm not good at a lot of things. I'm not good at paperwork. I'm not good at being a TC. I'm not good at holding meetings. I'm not good at managing people. Literally my current house, I'm project managing it for the one I'm gonna move in. It's freaking way over budget. It's taking way longer. I'm just the worst project manager ever. And I don't even know why I'm doing it at this point, because it causes me just nothing but stress and more money because I suck at it and I don't like doing it. Like, in fact, if I would have just had somebody else do it, it'd be done by now, it'd be cheaper, and I'd be living there. So dumb on me to do something that I just am not good at, don't like doing, and it's not worth my time. That's the reality. For you guys, also things you don't like to do, okay? Some of you guys don't like social media, and that is completely fine. But social media has to play a role in your business one way or another. So it does not have to be you. All right. If you don't want to do social media because you don't like it, then don't do it. But you better hire somebody who is going to represent your company on the social media side, because you need it. Okay. Just like all my companies need the things they need, doesn't mean that I'm going to be the one to do it. Social media is no different. Worth your time. This is a new one that we think about in business, right? Like I told Brian Davila, he told the story last week about cold calling. And I said, dude, back when I first met him, I'm like, why do you cold call? That is not worth your time. You could pay a VA $4 an hour to do that. He's like, you don't get it. Cold calling is great. I get deals and make a couple $100,000. And it's true, right? Like, he was making good money. But the reality is a VA could do it at a fraction of the price and call way more people. And he'll actually make more money by having a VA do it, right? It's just cold calling is not worth his time. In fact, cold calling is worth none of your guys' time in this group. So if any of you guys are cold calling, I'm not going to call you out, but you should not do it. Okay. Now you guys can follow up with leads. That's fine. I don't mind that at a certain point of your career, but you shouldn't just be cold calling. Okay. So, understanding what's worth your time, and not only just in business, like business is very simple to do because you just start figuring out what's worth your time on the business side, but also in your personal life. Okay. What things do you do in your personal life that are not worth your time, or that you hate, or that you could delegate, right? Do you still, cook your own food? I just hired a personal chef. It's been great. I can't believe I didn't do it earlier. Now, I personally didn't cook for the last couple of years. I haven't cooked in a long time. I eat out or my wife makes food, but now it's not even worth my wife's time because, for one, like, she is a good cook, but guess what? This personal chef is way better. He's like legit. And so he's better at it. She doesn't have to do it. Her time is valuable because she gets to spend time with the kids. And, she just doesn't want to cook every day. She'll like to do it for like once a week, but, by getting a personal chef, we replaced it. We got a nanny, same deal, like getting somebody to help. We have cleaners, we have a pool guy, we have a landscape guy, like literally, any kind of house chore is pretty much done at this point. Because when you think about it, it's so cheap to hire all of those things, even like at my level right now, I spend, I'm just going to ballpark this, for the personal chef, for the nanny, for the landscape, the pool, the cleaners. I'm going to guess I spend about 120 grand a year, 10 grand a month. That's like, to some people, a lot of money, but you're talking about like a full staff of everything related to the house for 120 grand. Many of you make way more than 120 grand, right? And it's something to consider as your time becomes more valuable, right? And your quality of life improves too, because you're not stressed about having to clean or cook or do anything. Like, in fact, I forgot my car cleaner guy too. He just came here. He's cleaning my car right now. I don't even think about it. He just comes 2 times a month, He's cleaning the car. It's great. I don't have to do anything. So that's how you become more productive, is like, you just do those things. Yeah, Alex said he doesn't even drive anymore. That's great. If I could, a chauffeur is probably my next hire, you know, when I get a Maybach or something, you know, so we'll see. But, you know, at the end of the day, just do things that are worth your time. You know, like the next stage for me, and I don't know when this will happen, but like, you know, I've been thinking a lot about flying private and getting a jet. And I'm like, man, you know, I was just yesterday, literally in the last 24 hours, I flew like 13 hours. You know, on Sunday, I flew to Florida. We had a layover, took like 7 hours. That was Sunday night. I got there at midnight. And then I came back Monday, took another 6 hours to come back. So, you know, I traveled for like 13 hours. Then I had to go through security. I had to do all this crap. That took another couple hours. And I'm like, man, you know, what if I had those 15 hours? How valuable were they to me? Where if I didn't have to sit near anybody, go through airport, like what could I have gotten done in those 15 hours that I wasn't able to because I'm busy doing everything that there is with flying? And, you know, it's a question that I'm probably going to answer here at the end of the year if things go well, where I'm like, yeah, it's not worth it anymore. Right. So anyways, your time becomes more valuable as your business explodes and everything. And you're not able to do the things that you used to do. Right. And people are going to think that, man, you're bougie, or, you know, you're lazy or whatever. It's like, no, it's just nothing is worth your time as you make more money. Right. So there's that. You got to replace yourself with things. Replace the things that you suck at, you don't like doing, not worth your time, and only do the things that you love doing and that are worth your time. Right. And, you know, being worth your time doesn't have to be just revenue. Okay. If you guys like, you know, charity work and helping people, and that's what you want to spend your time doing, do it. Like, that's worth your time. You're like me and you like playing golf and stuff. Like, it's fun. Like, I enjoy doing it. It's worth my time, even though, you know, it's like financially and stuff, I could work more and make more money, but I'd rather golf. Like, it's fine. So only do the things you love to do and all that. Now, the last R to productivity. Okay. Right now we've done routine, repeat, remove, replace. The last R is recharge. And this one is counterintuitive to most people in terms of productivity, but I cannot explain how important this is. Okay. So time to yourself is the most important key to being productive. Okay. If you are doing everything I just said, you're ultra focused during your activities, you've got this routine, you are removing crap out of your life that you don't need, you're replacing yourself and things not worth your time, you know, you're going to be going hard, right? Like, you're going to be like super dedicated to doing very efficient activities. But even if you're doing those things, you are going to burn out if you don't take a break. Like, you have to schedule time in to recharge. You know, it's just like your phone. Literally everything runs on energy in this world. There's nothing that has infinite energy that just doesn't need to replenish, right? Your cell phone, humans, animals, everything's got to recharge. Okay. So for us, you have to fit that into your schedule and your routine from step one. Okay. Literally plan your recharge on a weekly basis, right? You cannot just be like, oh, you know, like I'll take a break when I feel it. Okay. So, you know, you work 7 days a week and you just keep doing it and doing it. Then it's been like a few weeks and you're like, dang, like I'm pretty tired. I should take like a day off. No, you build recharge in to your routine. So for me, I recharge more than most people. I mean, I recharge 3 days a week from Friday to Sunday. That's my recharge time. You know, I golf on Friday. I don't do anything Saturday and Sunday. Like, that's how I recharge. And, you know, basically recharge for me is just not going to the office and working, right? That's how I consider recharge. Now, during those 3 days, what am I doing during my recharge? That's the big question that you need to understand. Okay. It's not like I just sit on the couch and do nothing, right? So I think about what activities for myself help me recharge for the following Monday, where I'm going to go out and crush the competition, right? So for me, A lot of that is family time, right? When I get to hang around my kids and my wife, we get to go out and eat, we get to have fun, we get to have date night. That's me recharging. Like, I'm just living life and having a good time, and it's great, you know? And it takes my mind away from work. And I love that my wife is not involved in any of my businesses, because if we just talked about work and stuff all day, it wouldn't really be a recharge for me, because now I'm back in work mode and I'm just like, it just is nonstop, never ending. Right. So I really am glad that our relationship is built that way. But you know, I spend a lot of time with family. I spend a lot of time at church and Bible studies and different things. Like, that helps me recharge spiritually. And I think all of you guys should be doing those things. I recharge by reading. Okay. You guys know I read a lot. I really like it. You know, it's impossible to read if all you do is work, right? Like, you can't read if you're always working. Like, reading takes, you know, setting aside time where you're not going to watch TV. You're not going to talk to anybody. You're not going to go on social media. You're just going to sit down and read a book and just recharge. And that's how I recharge. Like, it refreshes my mind. I learn new things. It doesn't take all this energy from me. In fact, it kind of replenishes me because I get inspired with new ideas. I start to think differently about how the world's going and maybe what my potential next moves are. You know, reading recharges me a lot. So I really like that. But, you know, for you, recharging could also be on social media. It could be watching Netflix. It could be going to the movies, whatever, right? Like, you know, I think reading's great, but, you know, if you really enjoy watching sports or something and that's how you recharge to just get away from everything, cool. Like, I'm not saying that's bad. You know, I just prefer to read. So I think scheduling that in to your day for what you want to do with the recharge is great. Also too, for recharge vacations, you know, scheduling in the vacations into your life and saying, man, you know, for me personally, I know I need to go on a week-long vacation every quarter. Like, that's just how I want to live. So, you know, we do that every quarter. And when I say at least 1 week-long vacation a quarter. That's the thing. I'll never be so busy that I can't go on vacation, because that tells me now, if I can't do that, then my businesses or my mental state or everything else are probably in a bad place if I'm not doing that, because that means something is very wrong with a lot of things. So I always plan those vacations in. So I'm going to Mexico next week. And it's going to be a lot of fun. But my point is, you know, even on vacation and during reading and my downtime, I have literally thought about almost every business, every idea, every problem in the business. I found the solutions to all those things in time alone. Okay. I don't find solutions, for me personally, by talking to everybody, right? Some people might do that, but I love just sitting in silence and doing recharge type deals and thinking about these things. It's also really why I've resonated with golf a lot, because I know I can go do it for a few hours by myself if I want to. And it's not a sport where, you know, I'm constant. It's not like basketball where you can't think during basketball. You know, you're just playing and reacting, and that is what it is. But golf, you have so much downtime that it's mainly just thinking all day. And then you step up to the ball for 5 seconds, you hit it, and then you go think for 5 minutes while you get ready for your next shot. So I love it. It works great for recharging and my business. So, you know, in the end, recharging is super important. If you're not recharging properly by doing things that, you know, replenish your energy, whether it's hobbies, vacation, family time, spiritual time, you know, maybe that's working out too. You know, some of you guys like to recharge by running and working out. That's great. Go do that. Whatever basically is a recharge to get stress away is how you are going to maintain your high levels of productivity, because you can't execute at the highest level every day. It's literally impossible as humans. You know, you have to be able to refresh yourself and go execute. And that's literally what I've done for the past few years. You know, it's not something anyone ever really told me to do. It was just something that I personally wanted to do. And as I've grown and seen the results of what other people do versus like how I do it, I've realized like I've been onto something for a long time, because it's very counterintuitive to what most people do. It's also why I created The Wealthy Way, just so that people could understand kind of these principles. But yeah, those are the 5 R's: routine, repeat, remove, replace, recharge. Tell me about the Stradman and that purchase.
Yeah, all of the sales reps that work for me knew that I was building a channel, and they knew how it was kind of helping our business. And everyone has always pushed me to spend more money. Like, I've made great money for 9-10 years now doing sales, and every dime of that was going into purchasing real estate. I've always lived, I rented an apartment for years. So I think I owned 20-something units, and I was still renting a 2-bedroom apartment,
Right.
And so I've always been someone to not spend on those things. And they really were pushing me to spend on those things. And so I justified it in a couple ways. One, I love just tossing the keys to my sales reps and saying, go drive the car, which has caused some weird things, because then there's Instagram stories of people speeding in the car and part of it. But I love giving people that experience. That was one reason. To build the channel, that was another. But it also is just a sick car.
Yeah.
And it was time for me to kind of reward myself for a lot of hard work.
The delayed gratification.
Yeah, of course. And then once I did it, it kind of opened the floodgates.
And then what happened?
This was the year of spending. 2020 for me was the year of spending, because I bought a 32-plex at the beginning of the year. I bought a 15-plex at the end of the year. I bought the C8 Corvette. I bought the Ferrari 458 Spider, and I am building my dream home. And I bought a duplex, and I put a ton of money back into my business. So it was kind of like, I lost my shiz this year just scaling everything.
Yeah.
And I recognized my cash flow on my properties was nuts, and a lot of that I'd just been setting aside, not using to live. And that's always been my rule, is if I can buy the fun stuff with the cash flow created from my properties, then I can do it. And even though I had that rule, I hadn't been spending a lot of it. And so this year,
you're just like, it's time to go, baby.
Yeah.
I think that's such a good thing, man. I remember, you've been on Graham's podcast. I've been on Graham's podcast. And if you don't know what we're talking about, it's Graham Stephan. And, he's like the cheapest guy ever. And I remember.
And he knows it. He's not ashamed of it.
No, he don't care. I mean, that's who he is. And once again, personal brand. That's the brand he's built. And ironically, with his brand, it'd be difficult for him to spend, because then it's like, what's going on with him?
Yeah.
But he don't even want to spend, so it doesn't even matter. It won't matter. But I remember asking him, I'm like, dude, at what point do you start enjoying, all the wealth you're creating? Because it's not going anywhere. Like, at this point, you can afford to go get your coffee and enjoy a nice dinner. And I remember, it might have been on the show or after the show, he was talking about how, he was super excited to go to sushi on Friday and spend like $30 on sushi. I was like, what? I'm like, bro, like, number one, $30 sushi is not like anything to get excited for. Okay. And number two, you could eat that every night if you really wanted to. Like,
you could eat it 20 times a day and it wouldn't touch your income.
Yeah, you won't even notice that you ate it. Like, and then, you'll go and spend, whatever, $30,000 on a Rolex or something. Like, whatever. It's just like this weird thing where we all have this, limit in our mind of like, hey, this is acceptable for my lifestyle. This is not, and, I always told myself, I'll consider myself rich the day I can go out and eat whatever I want, whenever I want. Like, that was my big thing, because I grew up as a poor minor league baseball player. And I remember on the road, we'd eat McDonald's all the time. We would have to meal prep cheap. We would, I was so frugal, and I had to be. It's not that I wanted to be. I didn't like being frugal, but I had to do what I had to do. And I just remember thinking, man, like, if I could just not have to worry about making food anymore and just eat whatever I want, I'll be like rich in my mind.
Yeah. Well, and I think delayed gratification is something that most successful people have. It's just learning how to transition that energy a little bit.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because it requires, and I'm sure you feel the same way, but it requires some self-control to say, I need to spend this money on my business.
Right.
Once you've created those good habits of delayed gratification, you've kind of got to step back and say, all right, what really is going to help me grow and progress and build my business? And that's nothing against Graham. Like, I love the brand he's created. However, I do think that there are certain things that if you can step back and say, no, if I'm willing to spend more here, one, I'm going to enjoy it, but two, it's going to help build my business.
100%.
And so it's important to find that line and grow with it. And it's important to be thrifty early on. That's a huge blessing. When you're trying to get started, I mean, I am a big believer that your income is more important than saving on your expense. However, when you've got no income and you're trying to build something, it's important to put away as much as you can to get that momentum going.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the thing that I've realized too is because I'm in a certain point in my life, I shouldn't judge other people being at a certain point in their life. And so like an example was when I was building my business, I was super thrifty, like you said, because I needed to reinvest every dollar I could back into my business. And, you know, like the flipping business is cash heavy. It's not like the sales business where, you know, we're generating revenue kind of out of thin air, really.
Yeah.
It's like for me to generate revenue, I need a lot of capital to do it. And so I was super thrifty. And it wasn't until finally that I had saved up enough bankroll and, you know, I'd raised enough money where it was like, hey, now I don't need to use my own cash to buy all these and fund my business. I've got all this other stuff now. And that was when I started to be a little more loose with my money and enjoy, you know, buying a nice car. You know, last year kind of was the year of spending for me too. I bought a Tesla. I would have never, like 2 years prior, if I saw myself buying a Tesla, I would have made fun of me.
Yeah.
I'd been like, that clown, like, why is he buying this expensive Tesla? Because I would do the same thing. I'd see people buy the Ferraris, and I'd be like, what a douche. Like, you know? But now it's like, I get it, you know? And when people are at a different point in their life, it doesn't really matter. I mean, once you have the money and you enjoy it, and you're buying it for you, you're not buying it to stunt and like, you know, in your case, you're buying it also as a marketing expense. You're getting exposure by buying it from another YouTuber and stuff. Like, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. And, you know, now I just see things differently now. I don't ever, at this point, I used to be a judger. I still probably am. But it's just like, all right, you know, if Chandler wants to buy a Ferrari, like, that's tight. Like, cool. I'm sure he did it, you know, for the best use for him. He enjoys it. And he probably has another reason behind it we don't know about.
Yeah, no, and I think that's important because I am the same way. You spend a lot of your life judging people for the way that they spend their money, and that's their money, for one. But two, I think, especially with my business, anytime you see me spend money, if you follow the money, yeah, a lot of those things bring enjoyment, but everything kind of works together, right? It's beneficial in one way or another, and whether that's because I want to give my sales reps an experience or because it's going to help the YouTube channel or whatever it is, people, for the most part, have a reason for those spending.
Yeah.
So that, and if they don't, that's okay. Like,
that's
why you work hard to do what you do. And that's what's funny about Graham is I know he's a car guy. I know he would enjoy experiencing some of those things, and he deserves it. He's earned it. And it's okay that he doesn't. Like, again, that's his brand. But I think for me, that cherry is awesome to work towards, and you can reward yourself once you've made the right decisions.
Well, he, so we've been working with him. So I filmed with a YouTuber named Lucky Lopez. He's a car guy out here in Vegas, and he knew that Graham was looking for a Ford GT, and you know, I don't know much about like those types of cars, but so I connected both of them together because Lucky, you know, was looking at one and Graham was looking at one. And so they might end up buying it, but I was like, man, how much is this Ford GT, like this 05? And they're like, yeah, you know, it's like 120,000. I'm like, are we talking about the same car? Like, this is an 05? Like, this isn't like a Ferrari or like, why is the Ford so expensive? Like, I don't get it, but I'm like, more power to you. Like, Graham, if you're gonna spend money, that's awesome. Yeah, like, I'm proud of you.
Well, I think that is another thing that comes back to follow the money, and with Graham, there's always going to be a way that it's going up in value or making him money.
Oh, yeah, for 100%.
And so would Graham buy a sports car at this point that's depreciating? No. He's going to buy a car.
Ferrari.
Yeah, he's going to buy a car that's going to go up in value because that's who he is, and that's awesome.
Yeah. No, you got to just figure out what brings you enjoyment. Yeah, like a funny thing for me, too, was watches. You know, I never even thought about buying a luxury watch. You know, I still got my Apple Watch on right now. And you know, I started watching YouTube and all these guys are talking about watches. I'm like, what's a Patek? Like, I literally didn't know what a Patek was until last year. And then I started asking my guys, I'm like, what other watches are there out there? Like, all I know about is Rolex. And they're like, there's AP, there's a Patek, there's this. I'm like, so I started looking at them. And then I was actually in Provo, Utah, which we were talking about earlier. And I was filming with a billionaire out there. And he had this huge watch collection. He starts talking about them and all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, I guess, you know, I guess I got to get a watch, man. So
I'm in the same boat. And it's funny because I talk heat on people with cars and now I own cars.
Yeah.
But right now the watch thing doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
We'll see if that changes, but I'm like, you say P-Tech, I'm like, I don't know what that is.
Exactly. I didn't either. So it is what it is.
Let's just define what saving actually is. Some people might have like these complex formulas of how much you should save per month and all this stuff, but really when it comes down to it, as long as you spend less than you make, you're saving money every month. And most people don't get to that point. There was actually this crazy stat I saw, I can't remember the exact details of it, but it was something along the lines that the average American had less than $800 in the bank account. I don't know how true it is, I haven't fact checked it, but the long story short is people don't have a lot of money saved up one way or the other. Many people are living paycheck to paycheck. And so if you're one of those people, don't feel bad because there's many other people in the same boat. But also feel good that you're watching this video because that means you want to improve your life. And so if you're trying to get out of that lifestyle, there's really two ways to do it. You can either figure out how to make more money or you can figure out how to spend less money. And if you could do both of those things, make more money and spend less money, then you're gonna really accelerate how much money you can actually save. So let's fast forward to the point where now you actually have the choice on whether to save money or not. You either stop spending so much, you either found a side hustle, maybe you got a new job or a promotion, whatever happened, and now you have the ability to save. A lot of people will tell you that you should save 6 to 12 months for an emergency fund or for just anything else that might go wrong. And this is part one of where I think saving is not the right choice. I do believe that you can oversave. If you're trying to get to this 12-month period of savings and you don't do anything else because you're just trying to hoard cash, I think that's the wrong choice. My belief is that once you've reached 3 months of reserves, meaning that you could live for 3 months without making any money, now it's time to start investing and really growing that wealth. You see, you're not gonna grow your wealth by saving money. You grow your wealth by making investments. And so when we think about investments, a lot of people will say, okay, well, maybe I should save up for a down payment for an investment on a house. Maybe I should use that money to invest in stocks. Maybe I'm gonna go buy some Bitcoin with that investment. But personally, I think it's far better to invest in either yourself or a side hustle. And investing in yourself can mean many different things. Maybe you pay for a seminar to go learn a certain skill, or maybe you invest in a license that helps you produce income. This could be like becoming a loan officer or a realtor, maybe a mobile notary. Or maybe that means investing in an online course or a coach or something like that for a career you wanna learn. If that career is real estate investing, definitely go to futureflipper.com. I'm not shy about promoting that. If you wanna learn how to be a day trader or a Forex trader, I can't help you out, but there is a coach or somebody else that can. Maybe your dream's to become an influencer, make YouTube videos, get paid by AdSense, get paid by affiliates and sponsors and all that stuff. My Social Media Academy teaches all of that. The point is, I would much rather spend that money on investing in myself and learning the skill much sooner than trying to save for 12 months. If I learn a skill that actually helps me make a lot of money, I don't need to save for the next 12 months. I'm gonna be making that money much sooner. And even if you don't wanna invest in yourself education-wise or licensing-wise or learning a new skill, there's a ton of different side hustles that you could do with that money anyway. If you wanna flip couches like I did, you can use that money that you would've saved towards your couch flipping business. But either way, you gotta make a choice. You can put the money in the bank where it's not gonna grow, and in fact, it probably is gonna lose value with the way that our dollar is just continuing to inflate, or you can put it to work learning a skill, or you're just buying and flipping things, creating this new side hustle or business. And this is why I say it's so much better to start doing this stuff now to accelerate your wealth versus trying to save up this arbitrary amount so that you have a big cushion. Now, assuming you're taking this advice, you're having success, you're making good money, you're now gonna have some new decisions to make. The new decisions you're gonna ask yourself now are, how much money should I keep in the bank? What kind of passive investments do I now wanna make? What kind of lifestyle should I live? Should I increase it or stay where I'm at? And here's my philosophy on those 3 questions. Now, for the first question on how much money you should have in the bank, As I said before, 3 months is pretty good when you want to first start out trying to hustle and make some money. But as you've made money and as you start thinking about passive investments, I do believe that, yeah, you should have more cash in the bank then. Somewhere between 6 and 12 months isn't bad once you've got to that point. I think you need to learn the skills and the side hustles before getting to that point. Once you've learned those skills, then I don't have a problem with you doing that. And to answer the second question of what type of passive investments you should do, I think once you have that 6 to 12 months, whatever you're comfortable with, start investing the rest of it. Don't just hoard cash. Start making your money work for you. But if you want to invest in stocks, go do it. Go invest in an index fund. Maybe even go after the Wall Street bet stuff. I don't know. It's totally up to you. If you're willing to lose your money at any moment, take a shot at crypto, because you know with the volatility, anything can happen. But I would just invest in something that you're passionate about, something that you enjoy. Really key in on one of those passive investments. Don't try and do all 3 of them all at once. Become a specialist in one of them. And that leads to the third question that I proposed on what kind of lifestyle should you live? And I actually read a book called Die with Zero that changed a lot of my beliefs about how much money to spend. Basically, the author talks about how when you're younger, you should invest in experiences more. Because when you have an experience when you're younger, you get to enjoy it the rest of your life. If you have an experience when you're older, you only get to enjoy it for a short amount of time. So it makes more sense to invest in experiences early on in life. And I believe that because when I think about all of the great things and memories that I have in my life, they're experiences. I'm not thinking about the Tesla I bought. Like, the Tesla is cool and material items are cool, but what really brings life value and what you really hold on to are your memories and your experiences. And typically, you're not associating a great memory with just a car or a computer or a watch. Like, it's an experience, a vacation, a party, hanging out with that person. That's what makes life. And look, I know there's a lot of people who will tell you, hey, grind it out in your 20s. Don't go on vacation. Don't do anything nice. Work, work, work so that you're well off in your 30s and 40s and so on. And you hear guys like Gary Vee say that. You hear guys like my friend Graham Stephan say that. They promote being frugal and just grinding it out. And to be honest, I kind of thought that way as well until reading the book and realizing, yeah, the best part of my 20s wasn't grinding it out. It was the experiences that I enjoyed. And so I think it's important to spend money on those experiences as you go along and start making more. And so to tie it all together, I hope you see that this video is not clickbait. Like, at the end of the day, I don't believe that you should save all your money in the bank. And I do not believe that you need to have this huge reserve fund, neither when you make it or when you're trying to make it. I think that you should actively be investing in yourself. I think once you reach a certain point, you should be doing some passive investments. And I think you should definitely be investing in your experiences and the memories of your life. And then not to mention that money in the bank is actually losing value with all the inflation and stimulus happening right now.
My question for you, hearing your whole story and, what you went through and, you've been out for almost 2 years now.
Right.
Is what would you tell a guy who, like you said, is facing that temptation? They know that they could easily make more money doing something, and maybe they're just, I don't know, like doing minor stuff. Like, what would you say?
I mean, like there is no minor stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, and everybody says, oh, everybody does it. No, everybody doesn't do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just be patient. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody wants to be patient. They want to be a multimillionaire immediately.
Right.
Like you can't wait and do it the correct way. I mean, what's so hard about that? But because deep down, if you really look at yourself, it's like, because I need to do it right away, and even if I have to do it right, the wrong way, it needs to happen right away. Why? Because I need to impress all of my friends.
Right.
Because that's really what it is.
Right.
Like, you're living in a decent house and you've got a girlfriend or friends, and it's like, if they're really your friends, then they don't care if you work at Walmart.
Right.
Like, you don't have to have the new car.
Right.
And if they're not friends because of that, or I don't get to do the post and I want to go on vacation, and if I make these W-2s and pay stubs, it'll work out for me. And all of that seems harmless until you get your livelihood taken away and you're sitting inside of a prison, or even if it's you get lucky and you get probation. Now you're really working you're working in the back room of some storage place, or you're changing oil. You're doing a job that you don't like. Not that there's nothing wrong with being a mechanic. My girlfriend's a mechanic. But, it's not if you want to drive, a Ferrari.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if that's not your goal, then that's a problem. So if you're just patient, then it'll happen. But if you're not, and you do it the wrong way, there's a very good chance that when it goes wrong, it goes so wrong that it takes you a decade to recover, if you recover at all.
Right.
And it's irrevocable. Like, most people just don't understand what it's like when somebody finds out they're a felon.
Right.
People will be disgusted with you. Like
Right.
your friends that you think are your friends are now embarrassed. Like, or you meet some girl and she's like, look, don't say anything about it. I didn't tell them that, you did 3 months in jail, or I didn't tell them that you're a felon. I didn't tell them this. Don't, you're going to meet my parents, but don't mention this. Or my
Right.
mom's already looked you up and she saw that this, and she's super upset. It's like, you did this so you could make $3,200. You cost yourself hundreds of thousands of dollars because you couldn't wait a couple of months for the qualified buyer.
Right. Well,
It's just,
I totally agree with you. I think from what I have seen with people, and not even with fraud itself, but just not morally doing the right things. I look at social media with this instant gratification, right? It's creating the instant gratification culture, like you said. And you see all these different get-rich-quick schemes and all these different things. So it's like people are always looking for that quick way to do it, whether it's legal or illegal. Everybody wants the get-rich-quick thing. Well, and for you, you come to LA, you don't know anyone, like you said. You got a real estate background, but you're just starting out as an agent. You had never been an agent before. You're
Never
just
been an agent
flipping,
before.
investor, developer. What were you doing to make money in a brand new city? That's a tough thing.
That is a really tough thing. So I'm going to give credit to a friend of ours that you're also friends with, Graham. So I came to LA. Again, my goal wasn't like, I have to make money from day one. I came here pretty well off. My goal was more like, what do you want to do? And what would be the easy and best route to get there? So I wanted to become a real estate agent because I figured that will get me to learn the market really quickly and allow me to meet people. I genuinely didn't know anyone. Like, really, I had like 2 friends here.
That's crazy.
So like, I was like, how do I socialize? Well, make the work as an excuse. I'm a hardworking guy my whole life. I was a professional athlete for 12 years. I've gotten into flipping homes.
Where were you an athlete in?
I'm actually a 3-time world champion professional windsurfer.
Windsurfer.
Yeah.
3-time world champion.
3-time world champion, yeah.
Nobody would ever, you never even talked about it.
I never talk about it. I actually have an EB1 green card. I have extraordinary ability green card from U.S. government because of my 3-time world champion title.
Wow.
I always tell people, this is my 3rd job. I was an athlete, I was a developer, now I'm a YouTuber. This is my 3rd phase in life.
Dude, we've kind of had a similar path. I was not a world champion, but
You were an athlete?
I got drafted by the Oakland A's to play baseball.
Sick.
And I played baseball for 8 seasons.
Okay.
And then, real estate was my second career. Yeah, and I'm still in real estate, obviously. But now, yeah, it's our social media and YouTuber. So, dude, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's like Mike always literally is like, I have to brag for you. Like, I have to tell people like your past. I was like, what do I say to people? Just like, oh, by the way, in my last 12 years of my life, I was competing around the world, traveling 200,000 miles a year.
How did you become a windsurfer? Like, I got to talk about this before we jump into the next.
I'm originally from Turkey. The town that I grew up in is like the 3rd best place in the world to do windsurfing.
Huh.
So when I
It's
was
just super windy.
It's windy. It's crystal clear water. It's just like it's like Miami of Turkey. Let's just call it that way. So I got into it when I was 12 years old. 13, I started competing. 14, I got my first sponsor. 15, 16, people realized you're really good at this. And I think, so when I was, 16, I became 3rd in the world. 17, I became 2nd in the world. 18, 19, 21, I became world champion.
Wow.
So I have like technically 5 world titles. I became European champion 1 time, traveled the world for 12 years. At peak, I had like 8 sponsors.
So what happened? Like, why'd you stop? And did you age out or you got tired of it? Like what?
I got a little bit tired of it. Also, I accomplished everything I wanted. Like, I've been to South Korea 9 times. I didn't have to go there 10 times to compete. I've been to France 4 or 5 times. I've been to Germany over 10 times. I've been to Spain, God, probably more than 15 times. I've traveled the world, but I realized my potential was not being explored. Like, yes, I can win more world titles, but it just didn't seem that exciting to me after a while. but it certainly shaped who I am today. I mean, the work ethic, you know, a lot of people, now I work really hard, and I'm like, this is a joke. You guys should have seen me when I was an athlete.
Yep.
Windsurfing is one of the most abusive sports in the world. Now I work easy, 12 to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I'm like, dude, I wear suits touring homes. You kidding me? This is work? Like, come on. I almost feel like I sometimes overwork my guys. And I'm like, dude, this is easy. Like, this is not even work.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where that hardworking personality comes from.
Dude, now it all makes sense because
you're like, I'm putting it together.
Yeah,
now.
no, it all makes sense because before we did the podcast, like you and I were talking and we're talking about big goals and stuff, right? And you told me, you're like, I want to be the biggest guy in real estate, you know? And that ain't something that just like normal people say, you know, especially someone who's been only doing it for a couple of years. But that's something that I have said to my team too. I'm like, guys, I want to be the biggest real estate investor anyone has ever heard of. Like this, I just want to be the guy.
You want to be the name.
I want to be the guy. And I believe it with 100% conviction that it will happen. And I can see it when you say it, the same exact thing. You're like, I'm going to be the biggest guy. It's a foregone conclusion. And it's not that it's a cocky thing or like that. It's just when you're an athlete, you have to have confidence, like this supreme confidence that you're going to be the best. And if you're not, you're going to figure out how. That's it.
That's it. I mean, it's just the only way to get to a position like that is through a lot of hard work and doing the right things, right? You can figure all those things out. Like, I'm not saying I'm a genius, you know? I'm saying I will do whatever it takes, and I will position the brand, the people, the team in the right place, and we will get there without a doubt. I've never hesitated. I've been saying this the last 12 months. 12 months ago, we probably had like 80,000 subs.
Right.
Nothing has
You're going to
changed.
go from 80 to 1 million in 12 months.
Before you know, it will be 1 million to 6 million. It's the same agenda. It's not going to change, and we'll get there without a doubt.
I 100% believe you. And I have the same faith with our team. You know, we're a little over 100 now. And my goal is like, in a year, we should have no reason we're not at 1 million.
Yeah, I mean, people are now seeing this, but there's 4 guys behind the camera. The moment I touch this home, I just see you guys getting content, doing stuff. You guys are putting in the work. It's a simple math, you know? So you guys put the work in, and you're educated in your space. You know what you're doing, and you put that to work. Good things come out of it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Even at a small level, you start to see the fruits of your labor, and at a big level, it just becomes insane.
Yeah, totally.
But I also agree with you about the part about, you know, hard work and this being quote unquote easy. Because when I was playing baseball, you know, not only are you training every day, you got to eat the right way. You got to, you know, for us, ride all these crappy bus rides and stay in motels. And we literally played 140 games a year in like 150 days, you know, and imagine that in the worst hotels and buses and everything. And so I look now and I'm like, wait, we're like worried about, you know, people think filming this $60 million mansion is tough, you know, hanging out in the couch. Like, this is the easiest thing ever compared to that.
Literally, I'm saying no to people that have like $20, $30 million listings. I genuinely don't have a spot for them to even feature. And we go in, people are stoked to have us. This is easy. I mean, my windsurfing days were harsh. Carrying gear around the world, abusive sport. You're competing in 30, 40 knots of wind, and you know it's hard on your body. So to me,
and my guess is you weren't even making that much as a pro windsurfer.
For windsurfer, I was actually making really good because the business mentality in me, I was a great marketer. That's
You're
why
getting all these sponsors, and
that's why I get these questions all the time. How do you get access to these homes? How do you get these companies to sponsor you? It's simple. When I go talk to someone and ask for something from them, I have the common sense to think about what I'm asking, and in return, what I can give them is worth their time. I can make that conviction in my mind. And if it's not worth it, I won't even reach.
Right.
So anytime, like, I'm pulling these really unique brand partnerships and people are like, how are you doing it? It's simple. When I ask for A, I want to make sure the B we give them is at least equal, if not more. And I always aim for more. When you do business with that perspective, your phone doesn't stop ringing. I've been offered to be partners over like 20 companies so far. We're not even that big. Like, I'm going to be honest. Our YouTube channel is not even that big. Like, there are guys with 5-10 million subs. The point is it's how you propose your value and how you carry yourself. It makes a big difference.
So, Duke, dude.
Yeah.
what are some cool things that people can do to save some money?
They can do things like form an S corp.
Tell me about that.
So essentially, what an S corp does, the whole purpose of an S corp and why people form S corps, is to save on self-employment taxes. Typically, what we tell our clients and everything is like we want to start looking at an S corp when the business is profiting about $50,000 to $80,000.
Okay.
Then we'll talk about that. We'll walk through the strategy and things like that. But before any strategy, and this is like super important to me, and this is a problem that I always run into, is like we got to have bookkeeping. Without bookkeeping, we can't do nothing. Like nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the number one thing. So the number one tip I have is like, hey, always take care of your bookkeeping first.
Yeah.
If we can take care of your bookkeeping first, we can see where money's going. We can see how money's coming in. If it's good, then we're going to talk about some tax strategies like, hey, how we can write off your car, how we can form an S corp. Let's talk about the home office deduction or hiring your kids in your business.
Yeah. So it seems like and this is something we see at TrueBooks all the time. Like we bookkeeping, like you mentioned, is number one.
Yeah.
Because when you think about bookkeeping, there's three things that it helps. Like one, it's going to make your tax prep way less.
Yeah.
There's less work from the accountant. Like it's already ready, rolling, baby. Two, it's going to help you make better decisions throughout the year.
Right.
I don't understand how businesses make decisions without knowing their numbers.
Right.
I see it all the time, and I was guilty of it when I was hustling and making things happen.
Yeah.
Like I don't have time to keep books, dude.
Right.
I can't look. I have no detail orientation around me.
It's
dude.
fine. It's getting done though. That's what's important.
Yeah, and so I remember I'm like, yeah, I'm making a lot of money, but where's it at? Like it's not in my bank.
Right.
And I realized like, oh man, there's a lot of money going in and out that I'm just not aware of.
Yeah.
And so I think bookkeeping will help you actually know. That's why we call the company True Books.
Yeah.
You need to know what's truly happening.
Super important.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to save on taxes, but they don't want to take care of the most important thing, which is bookkeeping.
You have to pay for it. But yeah, the third thing it allows you to do is typically, like, if you're going to get bookkeeping with us anyway, too, is like you're going to get all the other services as well. Of like, okay, now that we're keeping your books and we're doing tax prep, we know for sure we can help you with tax planning and all the things you just mentioned.
Yeah, you can identify opportunities.
Yeah. So tell me about the S corp. It's a common thing that people may have heard of, but they don't really understand why. Why do you have to be making 50 to 80 for it to make sense?
So it typically starts making sense between that 50 to 80,000 range because there's an additional expenses that comes with forming an S corp, such as an additional tax return. So you're filing a separate tax return. So typically when you're, sole proprietor, you're self-employed, your business income and expenses get reported on your personal tax return.
Right.
Now we're filing an additional tax return. So let's say if we form an S corp, and let's say, hey, dude, you're doing about 40,000. I think forming an S corp can save you about $1,000.
Right.
Hey, but the S corp tax return costs $1,200. You're like, so it's like you're saving taxes, but you're incurring more expenses.
Yeah.
So typically, that's why, this is why bookkeeping is really important. When you look at that threshold, hey, your net profit's about 50 to 80, because not only that, we got to do payroll software.
Right.
So that's an additional expenses. There's a lot more maintenance that comes with forming an S corp. And so you want to make sure your tax savings are higher than those additional expenses.
Yeah.
And typically we see that around that 50 to 80,000 cushion.
Yeah, for sure. So I know that how it works, and you can go and explain a little more detail of like the self-employment side. Like why is it saving?
Yeah, cool. So when you're self-employed, you're paying the whole 15.3%.
Right.
Of self-employment tax.
So let's say I make $100,000, pay $15,000.
Yeah, 3. Now the cool thing about having an S corp is that one of the requirements that the IRS has is that there's a lot of people miss this too. If you form an S corp by yourself, if you're listening to this, one of the requirements is that the owners has to pay themselves a reasonable salary.
Right.
Okay. So let's say we're doing another S corp. Let's say it's $100,000, right? And let's say we're paying ourselves $50,000.
Right.
So that's a $50,000 deduction on the tax return.
Right.
So now that net income is $50,000.
Yep.
And that's where we're paying those additional taxes on.
Yeah. So 7,500 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those were the savings. So the whole purpose of forming an S corp, there's a lot of purposes, but the main reasons why we do it is to help you save on self-employment tax. We want you to pay yourself and write it off.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you cannot pay yourself and write it off if you're sole proprietor, if you're self-employed.
Right.
So the only way you can pay yourself and write it off, the main way you can do it is by forming an S corp.
Yeah.
In order to form an S corp, we want to make sure we have good books, and we want to make sure we have that net profit around $50,000 to $80,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like 50 to 80 is like the minimum.
Yeah, that
Right,
kind of
right,
like that.
yeah.
You just wiggle room, just
Yeah.
Got it.
When I was a minor league baseball player with the Oakland A's, I lived on $1,200. But the funny thing is, regardless of how much I've lived on, my happiness has not changed that much. So in this video, we're gonna talk about how much you actually need to live the good life and some different things that you should do along the way. If you're new to my channel, my name's Ryan Pineda. I'm a real estate investor and entrepreneur, and the goal of this channel is to help people live the wealthy way. If you go to wealthyway.com, you can get all of our resources completely for free, no upsells. We've got an online course, a Discord community, and a planner app to keep you accountable to your goals. So go check it out. Now, in the finance space, many people have what they call a financial freedom number. Essentially, it's how much they need to make in passive income to support their current lifestyle. And for many, once they achieve this number, it allows them to retire from their job and do whatever it is they want to do. On the low side, some people say that $5,000 a month would be perfectly adequate. Then in the middle tier, I see some people saying $10,000 to $20,000 a month would give them the lifestyle that they want. And then I see people going for baller status, saying that they need to be able to make over $100,000 a month to get the life that they need. Now, I'll tell you, as somebody who's spent a lot of money on their lifestyle, there are two myths that people have when they're trying to figure out how much. The first myth with this financial freedom number is that passive income is actually going to remain steady or truly passive. For instance, people want to use rental properties as a way to get there, and real estate is great. I'm all for it. I own a lot of it. And real estate is about as steady as it gets. You're not going to have to worry about that industry ever going anywhere. Even if you have a lot of rental properties, it's not going to be as steady as you think. You've got vacancies, you've got evictions, repairs, all of these things that happen with owning real estate. And on top of that, even if you have a property manager, you're still going to have some type of involvement to make sure things are getting done and that the money is going to keep coming in. It's very easy to have a rental portfolio go to crap because nobody took care of it or managed it the right way. I've bought many of these rental portfolios from people who had their properties mismanaged. So even though real estate can be a great passive income stream, it's only reliant on how good the manager is. Another passive income stream I've talked about are NFTs. I recently talked about in a video how I'm making $36,000 a month in passive income from my NFTs. Now, this number is absolutely crazy, and most people can't even wrap their mind around it because NFTs are so new. But here's the thing for me. Even though this is a great passive income stream now, is it always going to be there? If I was only banking on this to live off of, I would have to have complete confidence that this NFT project was going to be around forever and that people were going to always value the coins that this NFT generates. I think it would be kind of naive to believe that it's always going to be this way in the long run. Everything in the tech space is changing at a rapid pace. Everything in business changes at a rapid pace. So you're betting on the team to make the right adaptations to keep things going. And honestly, this is no different than anything you do in life. If you're investing into a stock, you're betting that the company is going to continue growing profits and therefore your investment's going to go up. If you are an employee at a company, you're betting that this company is going to continue adapting so that you can keep getting a paycheck. All my employees that work for me do it because they believe I'm going to keep doing this for the long haul and I'm going to keep pushing the business forward and their careers will keep going forward. And the same thing applies if you're going to buy an e-commerce store from me at Lunar Ecom. I know that we can create stores that generate revenue and passive income for our clients. But at the end of the day, our clients aren't really buying an Amazon store from us. They're essentially buying into the belief that at Lunar Ecom, we are going to find ways to adapt today and in the future to continue creating them passive income. They might have an Amazon store today, but if in a year from now, Amazon's not what it used to be, be, then they're going to rely on us to adapt and find the next new store for them that can generate income. And that's the truth. Things are always changing in business, so you want to align yourself with a company that is willing to shift with those changes instead of fight them. So the point with all of those stories that I'm making is that no matter how much passive income you have today, no matter how you make the passive income, you're always going to have to adapt and manage it to maintain that passive income. There's no strategy today where you just buy it and then you're gonna get passive income the rest of your life. You're gonna have to continue making new decisions on what's gonna bring you this income. The second myth I wanna debunk is that people are too focused on how much money they need to make. What they need to focus on is how much margin they want in their life. This is a concept I talk about in The Wealthy Way. And an example of margin in the financial sense is strictly the difference between how much you spend and how much you make. For example, if you spend $5,000 a month and you make $10,000, then you've got $5,000 of margin. And it goes to prove why there are so many rich people who are stressed, because they are living paycheck to paycheck. If you're making $30,000 a month, in the eyes of the world, you are very successful and you're making a lot of money. But if you also spend $30,000 a month, you probably don't feel like you're that rich, mainly because you're not saving anything, you're not able to make other investments, and you know you're living paycheck to paycheck, so if you stop working, you're gonna be in trouble. So these people might have more stuff and a better life on Instagram, but I can tell you internally, they're at a place where they're extremely stressed and they're always worrying about what's next. So one skill people need to think about is learning how to be more content with less. So in the end, what's the right answer then? How much money should you spend a month and how much margin should you have in your life? Well, I think it's different for everyone, obviously. As you grow, your lifestyle begins to change. I think 50% is a really good ratio. If right now you live on $5,000 and you make $10,000, then you have a 50% ratio. If you want to go spend $10,000 a month, then you need to go figure out how to make $20,000 a month. That way you're still able to maintain your 50% and you're not feeling stressed out. And eventually, as you make more money, hopefully that percentage keeps going down and down. Case in point, even though I spend $35,000 a month, I live on less than 10% of my income. So I don't feel stressed out when I go eat at a nice restaurant. I don't feel stressed out when I go make my car payment or my house payment. It's because I've built in so much margin into my life, I'm still able to live and buy all the things I want without having to let them control me. Now, that being said, as somebody who spends $35,000 a month, like how much more do I need to spend to get everything that I personally want? Honestly, not much more. I can't really imagine what I would spend $100,000 on every single month. It's a lot of money to spend. We already eat at the nicest restaurants on weekends. I drive the car I want to drive. We go on vacation where we want to go. So there's definitely a limit to how much more you can really spend and get more value out of it. But if I had to put a number on it, I would say that the number for most people, if you want to just live this baller life that you get everything you want, you get the nice car, you get the nice house, you eat at the nice places, I think $20,000 a month gets you there. My advice is to find a way to make $40,000 a month so you can maintain that 50% margin.
Yes, thanks for making it to the end. The good news is I've got another one that I know you're gonna like, and all you gotta do is click it right here. Linking it right here. All you gotta do is just click it, and you're gonna see this new episode that you're gonna love.
A lot of people, especially older people that are watching YouTube, they don't know what the subscribe button does. They're afraid if they click subscribe that they're gonna be, they're tricked into some $9.99.
They are subscribing to a monthly service.
Exactly. And that I think they should really change that wording on subscriptions for YouTube, because that would
just make it follow, just like everyone else.